Thank you, GayCon. I really appreciate you being here, my friend.
No problem at all.
Hey, Garison's in the room. There's the best. We got people showing up right on. Here we go. All right. Oh, I know I already sent you a speaker. Sorry, Mar. All right. So tonight, our lovely Cats for Truth co-host is sick. She will be in for a short time doing the Reducation segment, but GayCon, my awesome brother, decided to come in and fill in and help us out tonight. I really appreciate it. And so we have GayCon and the Best Peoples as our co-host tonight. So I think that's amazing. And let's hope that Cats starts feeling better, you know. You feeling all right down there, Garison, after a hot day in the sun, bro?
Yeah, just pretty tired. I wanted to hop on early because I don't know if I'll be able to do the long haul or the overtime hour. But yeah, it was a day of pretty hot. I think it was like 103 manual labor outside. So feeling sleepy.
Yeah, that'll put you to sleep right away. It will. There she is. How you doing, Best Peoples?
All good.
Nice. Glad everybody's doing well. Neo, what's going on, buddy? You okay down there?
Yeah, I'm doing good, man. I just got the news just like a half hour ago that Jay Inslee is going to be in my hometown tomorrow, Montesano, Washington. That's where my kids go to school, and I'm like, holy crap! I wish I didn't have to work so I could go, give him a quick wave and a middle finger.
Yeah, everybody wants to give him that, right? I just sent Cats for Truth a couple videos, you guys, where Jay Inslee was in Washington, D.C., arguing with President Trump about gun rights and stuff. It was actually kind of cool. It was pretty cool. What did you think of that video, Cats?
Yeah, it was funny, but it was typical Trump and typical Inslee, who thinks he's God and that he's smarter than everyone else. Not.
So my favorite line, I don't know if you guys remember this, Best, but I think a lot of us in Washington loved when the coronavirus was going down. And Trump spent about 2 minutes talking about Jay Inslee and called him a snake. And a lot of us like that out here. We like that he did that.
Well, he is a snake.
Definitely. Welcome, Kelli, to the room. Welcome the doctor who's down there listening in. Appreciate him very much. Good friend of mine. Hey, Vibe, you were on vacation. How did that go, my brother?
Oh, yeah. Vegas was cool. Spent a lot of money.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, pretty much. Other than that, it was cool.
Was it just nice to get out of Washington, stay for a while, and go just do something fun with your family?
Well, I actually went by myself. So it was kind of a vacation / opportunity. So.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah, I gotcha.
Yeah, it was cool. Thanks for asking.
Yeah, always checking in on all my friends. Got to check in on everybody here, make sure everybody's doing good. How's Texas, Kelli?
Hotter than Hades at the moment.
Like, do you got a temperature you can tell us? Because, here in Washington, we're getting sucky weather even in July.
I think we've been averaging about 103 every day for 2 weeks. We're now under a burn ban. Nobody can burn leaves or anything. They waited until after the 4th. I think they were going to see how many people set their pastures on fire with fireworks, but everything is good. We're all cool, so to speak. Just plugging along.
How cold does it get in the wintertime there? And Best, in your area too. I don't know what area you're from, Best, but how cold does it get? Oh, she was dropped a listener, so if she gets a speaker, go ahead, Best.
It gets 60s and 70s, and it's kind of funny because over the 4th of July, there were hundreds of fires set by fireworks in every city. So in North Texas, there was something like over 1,000 fires. And across the state, I can't imagine how many there would be. But fireworks shows had to be shut down early. And there are some serious fires across the state. So it's no joke.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy. One of the things I hate here, and I hope that's not this year because of how late it is, and you guys might get that in Texas too, is it's almost like we have a fire season in August. So August is the most beautiful time in Washington State. I'm not joking. But when you can't see the sky because of smoke and it's not good for your lungs and stuff to breathe it, it sucks, man. It's no fun. It's like, and we've had that like almost every year. I think last year we might have had a break from that. Do any of you from Washington remember, did we get a break last year from having smoke season? Does anybody remember?
Well, remember, I'm in a different.
Yeah, I'm talking
area,
like Mar or Neo is more in my area. Maybe they would know. And
Yeah, it was definitely bad for a few weeks there. You know what's funny about that, Jason? I want to bring up a quick point to that, is that they actually came out on the radio or wherever news outlet I saw. It was during COVID still going, right? And they were saying how masks don't protect you from the smoke. How hilarious is that if you think about it?
I know, right?
I laughed when they said that because I remember that came from Channel 7, I believe, was talking about that, and it was hilarious.
That's crazy. That is so crazy. Well, guys, I'm so glad you're here, and I think the room will probably fill up as the night goes on, and we're just gonna have a good time and talk and stuff. We got the Best Peoples has got the 3rd hour tonight. GayCon is filling in for Katz, who's not feeling great, but she's still gonna do Reducation. But once again, GayCon, thank you so much for jumping in on that. I always appreciate you helping me co-host. Best, I'm always appreciative of you and everything you've done. And in a second, I'm going to hand the mic over to you, Best. I'd like you to talk about some things. But before we do that, I want to say that last week, and you can, GayCon, will you do the microphone handing out for a bit, just so I can focus on this?
Sure.
Jeannie's down there. She's probably going to want to talk, which is cool. Last week we had a little bit of it was kind of an odd situation, and we're gonna, I want everybody to have a chance to speak in this room, but what I don't want is people attacking other people. And one of our speakers said something, and somebody didn't like something, and they started attacking them. So I am going to be on that more in a 3 strikes you're out rule. If I mute you twice, not you guys, not most of you guys in here are good, but I just want you to know my system. If I mute the whole room twice to talk to one person and they do not understand, I'm going to then remove them as a speaker. It's just, I've got to do it. I've got to keep control. I don't want anybody getting attacked in this room. And so it's the way that I've just thought about it all week. I was bugged for a couple days about it. That's how passionate I am about keeping this forum civil, because I really want you guys to have a place to speak as well, freely and not with attacks. The other thing I'm going to work on, and Kat's always been pretty good about this, but I've let it go sometimes. I have a mouth sometimes. I can talk. I can let it go sometimes. Not in these rooms. I'm pretty good about this, but at home when I'm frustrated, my mouth can go when I get mad about something. Or I want to keep the room civil because there are people that don't want to hear the language. So that's why I do it. And I know I know certain people that actually listen to this on their phone while they're taking care of their kids, like a podcast. And so they don't want their kids to hear that stuff. So I'm going to really make sure that I'm better about that. I had a good friend of mine tell me that last week, and I really appreciate her advice. So I just want to make sure we keep on that stuff. So that being said, we have so many cool things coming up, guys. This forum is taking off, no joke. And one of our back end and he has done so much to help us out, is the Best Peoples. And I am actually going to give him the microphone because he is our co-host and an amazing friend of mine. Best, please take over and talk a little bit about this stuff.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Jason. So just to go over what we've been doing over the last 2 or 3 weeks, we, love our audience, want to expand our audience, want to expand the reach of our conversation, dialogue, and discussions. And to do that, we have two different but related things that we're doing. The first is to make this more interactive and to have a better way for the audience to direct feedback, and also to have a better system of promoting and keeping track of these spaces. So to that end, we have a new Twitter account completely dedicated to this space, the forum, and all we do. And I put one of their posts up there. I can't really join with the account while I'm joining, because you'd get messed up. And we have a new email address, theconservativepoliticalforum@gmail.com. And if you have a suggestion, comment, question, something you want to be brought up, if you have any concerns, you are more than free to email that address, and we will do our best to respond appropriately. So that's the first thing, the Twitter account, which will be used to promote the space, and keep updates on everything. And if you could follow it, it would mean a lot to us. And then the second part is to make these spaces accessible on demand after the fact. So Twitter, we do record them, and they are available on Twitter itself. Now, thanks to the updates that came out this week, all recordings will be available indefinitely forever. There's no limit anymore, which is good news. But for people who want kind of easier access, because the UI isn't so great to listen to recorded spaces, we are going to put up the full uncut audio on YouTube and Rumble, two platforms. YouTube mainly for the reach, and Rumble because we're obviously want to support the alternative economy and support a platform that respects free speech and is just becoming really popular. There's a lot of people waiting to be reached on both platforms, and that is kind of what we want is for more people to be able to interact with us, for us to interact with them, and so more people can hear it. So the last two episodes, or last two political forums we've had, are currently available on both YouTube and Rumble. The links and everything I'm talking about, if you click the tweet that I've pinned to the board right here, is a thread that basically goes through everything and has links to everything. Going forward, we are partnering with an amazing company that has an amazing product. It's called Audio Labs, and what that will have us do is after Jason ends the spaces, they will be automatically uploaded to YouTube, and then we will make sure they're on Rumble as well. So we're very excited to partner with them. They're a great new startup, and that is one way we're going to make the distribution process much easier. Other than that, we have again the email. We have an link page, so everything's in one place. If you have, any suggestions for things, obviously we are always open. And if, again, if you would follow the account, subscribe to the YouTube and especially the Rumble, that'd be greatly appreciated. And I'm going to stop kind of rambling and get the show on the road.
Thank you, Best. I appreciate that. The other easy way for you guys to, if you're like, man, I can't find the Conservative Political Forum Twitter page, all you have to do is click on Kat's or my link. You can get on our Twitter page, and we both have put the Conservative Political Forum Twitter page to our accounts. You can link on that to the Twitter page, and if you want to get to the other stuff that the Best is talking about, just go to the Conservative Political Forum Twitter page from our pages if you can't find it just randomly, and there's actually a link in there that leads you to everything, right, Best?
Yep. So, right, in Jason and Kat's bio, it has the Political Forum Twitter account, and on the Political Forum Twitter account, the website is our All My Links page.
Awesome, thank you. And I just want to thank everybody for always coming to this forum. We are growing, and we want to grow. I really want a place for people to be able to talk politics and talk and vent their own opinions. And that's why I said what I said earlier about your opinion. Like, I don't want people being attacked because you know what? What I believe is my opinion, right? But we all have a right to have an opinion. Now, the Biden administration would like to say we don't have free speech, but we do. And we're going to make sure that free speech is safe in this forum for everybody. People listening, there's a new feature Twitter Spaces put. I love it. If you look down in the right-hand corner, there's a little icon next to the share button, and you can actually talk or just text something during the forum, and we can always respond to those too. I like that feature. It's kind of fun. People will respond during it and make comments. So you're all more than welcome to do that too. And yeah, so that's the new stuff we're doing, and we'll just keep growing. And we love having you guys as an audience. I'm so honored, guys. I always dreamed of doing radio when I was a kid, and stuff, and I never got there. Even though I did intern for a couple years at a radio station, and I was like, Lord, what are you doing with my dreams? And He's opening doors for me to be able to have a place. But I like that. I like a platform where we can actually banter. So this is really fun to me. I'm enjoying it so much, and we're just going to keep it going. Opening topic. I have a quick one. We're going to spend 7 minutes on this opening topic. Real quick, I just want your opinions. You guys will laugh. So let me go to the opening topic. All right. Here we go. This should be funny if I can find it. I just have to find it because it's all mixed up. Here we go. So after the shootings on Monday, which I'm very sad about that happened, this was Kamala Harris's word salad. Let's talk about her word salad for a second. VP Harris, we got to take this stuff seriously as you are, because you have been forced to take this seriously. All right. Let's jump right into that conversation. GayCon, I don't know if you saw any hands raised. Oh, nobody's hands raised yet. Does anybody want to say something about that? That's a corny comment right there. And I can read it again.
Jason, she's a poet. Understand poetry when you see it.
Okay. Yeah, I guess it does sound like poetry. Cats?
Oh, my word. I haven't heard that one myself, but it doesn't surprise me given her other fantastical word salads that have come out of her mouth. I'm just like, how did this woman pass the bar exam? I don't get it. How do you pass a bar exam, but you cannot speak intelligently? That just throws me.
Definitely. I agree. It's weird. Kelli.
I was listening to some stuff on Twitter the other day, and I have a a neighbor of mine. He comes over for coffee every now and then, and he happens to be my generation black man. And he was sitting on my porch, and I was flipping through Twitter, and we were drinking our coffee. And something that Kamala said came up there, and he looked at me and he said, I don't know how she passed the bar. I'm not sure she passed high school.
Hey, we know. Just raise your hand real quick. I know this is not for you to speak, but raise your hand if you guys know how Kamala Harris really worked her way up to the top. We know. Yeah. See all the hands raised? Yeah. Okay. You can put your hand down unless you have a comment, and then you can keep your hand up, and I'll let you speak right now about this. You are correct, Bess. That is poetry. I was making fun. I think a couple months ago. Oh, go ahead, Bess.
No, I was just going to say, if you watch the clip, it's basically her standing in the middle of a street with 20 microphones in front of her, and it's the most unnecessary stop. Like I get the vice president kind of should go there to help and encourage, but it's clear that she didn't do that, and she just came to kind of get a soundbite, and it was a bad one.
It was definitely a bad one. That's true. Cats and then GayCon.
Well, Jason got himself suspended for calling her a hoe, but as I told him, I've said numerous times without getting in trouble that when it came to passing the bar, that she had horizontal assistance. So I don't know if half the people looking at that didn't know what the heck I meant, but I think that people in the know probably understand what I mean.
Yes, and we're going to move on from what I called her and got me suspended because I don't want to get any more suspensions. GayCon, go ahead.
I think you had female privilege there, Cats. You got away with it. No, I'm just kidding. As someone who is, a writer by profession, I am not the best orator. I am not the best speaker, so I have some sympathy about that. But when you're a politician, and when you're her job, politician and lawyer, you're supposed to be a good orator, right? So that's where my sympathy sort of ends, because she's supposed to be good at that kind of stuff. But also figure out a way to to hedge and hem and haw a little bit before you just start saying the same words over and over and over again, and make yourself sound, to use a nice word, ridiculous.
Yeah, that's a good one, GayCon. I really appreciate how you said that, actually. And yes, Kat had privilege on that. That's why I'm not repeating what it said. All right, so we got 3 hands. We're gonna finish with these 3 hands, and then we'll go on to our next segment. Jeannie, welcome to the Conservative Political Forum tonight. First time we're hearing you.
I was just going to say maybe Kamala Harris needs those note cards typed up, or at least a teleprompter.
Yeah, that might be good. I agree. Who was next? Was it Kelli or Mar? Does anybody know?
I think it was Kelli.
Okay. Thank you, GayCon. Kelli?
I have to agree with GayCon. Being born and raised in California, I left there while she was the Attorney General. She spoke just as stupid back then as she does now. So nothing's really changed. And, the only thing I can think of is there's a Republican somewhere writing her speeches just to make her look really bad.
That's probably true. That's a good one, Kelli. I love it. You're making everybody laugh tonight. I like it. All right, Mar?
I just can't believe she's the best female that they could have come up with. Like after listening to Candace Owens for the past 2 years, I just really don't understand how someone like her is passed up for somebody like Kamala, because she really can't form two sentences. However, having said that, she's a perfect match for Biden because he can't seem to form a perfect sentence either. So I guess they were meant to be.
Well, don't forget, though, that Candace Owens is a strong conservative, and Kamala Harris is nowhere near a conservative, and Biden would not pick Candace Owens. But you are correct, Mar, that she doesn't speak well and that Candace Owens speaks way better. So I just wanted to clarify that, Mar. Jeannie, your hand is raised. I'll let you close this out, and then we'll move on.
I just want to do a little what I call house cleaning. Last week you had a person that was slurring her words and definitely drunk and cursing like a sailor. And, I really complained about that. And it wasn't the swearing because, I can do it too when I'm at home. I usually try not to do it much on Twitter, but, on occasionally I slip. But these drunken rants that people go through they really trigger me because of my past, and that's what I had a problem with. Is people are so drunk that they're, whatever their thing is, giggling or getting mad or, just being plain, downright stupid. I leave when that starts happening because who wants to listen to a drunk? I mean, maybe other people do, but I just can't do it.
Yeah, well, we'll keep an eye on that stuff, Jeannie. Don't worry. We're watching that stuff. Hey, my friend John from Canada is down here, guys. He just joined. Welcome, John, to the Conservative Political Forum. But thank you, Jeannie. All right, we're going to move on. We're going to do Reducation. Kat is doing it from the speaker box tonight. GayCon is here the whole 3 hours. Kat will not be here the whole 3 hours. She needs to get better. But that being said, GayCon does have our forum guidelines, and so I really want him to go over those with us, and then you can hand the ball to Katz, and I will just let you guys run the show for a half hour.
All right. So, as freedom thinkers in the Conservative Political Forum, we believe in and value our constitutional rights. We also recognize that even amongst ourselves, there are varied opinions. This forum is a safe place for all. We won't tolerate personal attacks or raised voices. We do also ask that you be considerate of persons who prefer not to hear profanity. Please be self-aware of your microphone time, and we want to ensure everyone who wants to contribute to a particular topic has the ability to and can. And with that said, I will turn it over to Katz.
All right. Thanks so much, GayCon. I appreciate you at the last minute pinch hitting for me while I'm a bit under the weather. I should be able to hold out a while anyway, so I will give it my best shot. So we're going to start our Reducation segment. That's our weekly segment designed to provide education via counterpoint with each other on topics that are important to many Americans. Often these topics can be emotionally charged. All forum guidelines, which is what GayCon just went over, are in place for this segment. Nothing changes. We expect speakers to remain civil. If you have a mic, you'll have a chance to respond. Raise your hand, we'll call on you. Since it is a short segment, roughly 30 minutes, do keep your answers concise so that everybody can participate. Maybe try to shoot for not more than a couple minutes per person. So this week's topic for Reducation is climate change. And there's actually quite a few segues on that one topic. So you could discuss climate change from the aspect of, is it real? Is it a hoax? Is it just a way for politicians to spend more money needlessly and get pork belly stuff in their bills for silly things, and so on and so forth. Also, there's a number of subtopics, such as the different means of green energy, um, such as your electric vehicles, solar panels, the wind farms, the pros and cons of each. And even within those topics, there are even deeper topics, such as how are they produced? What is needed to produce them? How are they manufactured? Is that environmentally friendly? What happens when they're out of their life cycle? What happens with recycling those no longer good parts? So that is our education. And did Best have his hand first and then Kelli, I think?
Yeah, but Kelli, you can go first.
Thank you, Best. I appreciate it. I'm going to show my age here just a little bit. I remember we're going to have another ice age. I remember acid rain. I remember, the polar caps are all melting. I mean, this stuff's been going on for decades as a way for them to funnel money. That's all it is. This electric vehicle stuff is not going to sustain itself because people aren't going to be able to afford it. You actually pay less per mile in a truck than you do charging an electric vehicle. It's in California's already saying we're going to have rolling blackouts because we have too many electric vehicles. So, it's just going to make the whole system crash and burn.
Yeah, I'm definitely with you on that. Absolutely. Best, what you got to say on that?
Yeah, Green, the whole thing is one of the many different scams that globalists and politicians use to get them both more money and more power. And one of the things that I just wanted to bring up tonight sometime was what's happening in Holland, where the government basically had increased regulation on nitrogen, in agriculture. What AOC, thought of doing, they actually did. And predictably, a lot of farmers lost their jobs, now can't, use their own fields the way they want to. And instead of, taking it, they are now in full uprising. It's not getting as much coverage. I guess the media learned their lesson from the Canadian truckers, but they're blocking roads. There are no foods in the grocery stores. They're disrupting the country. The police have been firing on them the past day. And the farmers aren't going home, and it's a big uprising because just another climate regulation that won't do anything in the end. The climate will rise by however many degrees it will by 2100, no matter what Greta Thunberg says, no matter what they do. The climate is something such a big force that humans can't really derail it. And if they do, it takes hundreds of years. You can't do it on this timescale, nor would you want to. The Earth is naturally warming, and we can adapt by using fossil fuels. We have created a much more safer world in which we can protect ourselves, just like we have from most other natural disasters.
Amen, the best. So for people in Texas, I just want to ask quickly, wasn't it a couple winters ago that there was a really bad freeze and the wind farms, they all froze, and weren't people freezing to death because they could not produce enough of that type of energy to keep things going? Am I correct on that?
Yeah, we did have 5 days of no power and a catastrophe, and it was partially because of, the wind turbines not producing much power, but it was also because the natural gas plants were either offline, schedule maintenance at an incredibly inconvenient time, and then the winter storm shut a few more down, and it was kind of a perfect storm of unfortunate events that kind of caused the whole thing. So it's not fair to say it's one thing that happened.
Yeah, it sounds like a regular comedy of errors. Thanks, Best. Kelli, do you have something to add or something different?
Well, I think we had a lot of criticism in Texas because, the grid faltered, whatever. You guys couldn't even survive the winter. Well, our winters down here are much milder than they are up in North Dakota. So our houses are not insulated for that, because if we did have them insulated for that, the humidity would cause mold and then we'd be sick. But at my house, when the Best was talking about how cold it was, I have a game camera shot with a thermometer on it, and it was -11. I have never experienced cold that bad, ever.
Wow. And that is a good point that you bring up too, that yes, certainly in some parts of the country, they may not have as good an insulation in their homes because you don't expect to have that severe temperature drop like that. So there just wasn't the preparation. For newer people that have hopped in, this is the Reducation segment, Point Counterpoint. The topic is climate change, but also subsets of that topic, such as the various green energies, pros and cons to each, and so forth. I find the hypocrisy crazy. Like, there's so many things. John Kerry flying his or being flown in his private jet all over the place, speaking about climate change, but yet the carbon footprint of that private jet is just like astronomical. And then him saying, well, I need to go that way, or whatever he said was stupid. Then you have the Obamas and other celebrity types who tout that, buying multi-million-dollar mansions right on the shores of the ocean. But yet, if you really believed that the waters were rising, would you actually buy a multi-million-dollar mansion on the shores of the ocean? I wouldn't. And then you have, I believe China and India are firing up more coal plants and, spewing more bad stuff into the atmosphere, but nobody says a word about that now, do they? I kind of find that funny. All right, somebody else got something to say on this. Raise your hand. Nicky. Hi, Nicky. Go for it.
Hey, it's been a little bit since we talked. How you doing? How was your 4th of July? Cats?
Yeah. Well,
I
welcome.
was just asking you. How are you doing? How was your 4th of July? Just making conversation, being polite.
Oh, yeah. No, it was fine. Watched some fireworks, and I mean, nothing much going on. But yeah, it was comfortable, nice to have an extra day off, of course.
That's
Thank you
always
for
nice.
Thank you for asking, Nikki. I hope yours was good too.
Yeah, it's good. I'm up traveling on the East Coast. My cousin's getting married this weekend, so I'm excited for that. Gonna go to the wedding, so I might not be on Spaces as much this weekend. Is the long and short of me with me saying that.
Oh,
Um,
cool.
anyway, oh, sorry, you were going to say something. My apologies, Cats.
Oh, no, I just said cool.
Oh, thanks. So anyway, I would think, and maybe I'm wrong, that the winter storms, the uncharacteristically awful winter storms, combined with uncharacteristically awful, summer heat in Texas and in other places around the country, would make conservatives who have otherwise previously been skeptical of climate change existing and being a thing, to at least be willing to admit that, things are getting warmer, that the climate is changing, it is getting hotter, we are getting more extreme weather, and that is something that is not good. Even if you disagree about why it's happening, the minimum of it's clearly happening and it's causing both extremier highs and extremer lows, should make us sit up and take notice compared to where we were 10 years ago, which is where we were saying, this isn't a real thing. The climate isn't changing. This is a joke. Ha ha. What are you talking about? Go climb some trees or something, you nerds. Which was basically the conservative position up till, I don't know, even a couple of years ago. And then the question is, what can we do about it? Regardless of whether it's entirely been caused by man or partially been caused by man or only a little bit been caused by man, if a comet, or not a comet, if an asteroid is hurtling toward the United States, it doesn't really matter if that's a caused by man thing or a caused by nature thing. We still have to ask ourselves, okay, if we don't want the planet to blow up, what are we going to do about it? And the conservative response to this has largely been, it's not a problem. And I guess my point is, unless you think that having more and more of those crazy winters in Texas where your grid gets blown up and people freeze to death is okay, we should probably think about how we're going to deal with this going forward, and shoving our heads in the sand is not very effective.
Cats, are you there?
Yeah, I was, I'm sorry. I was looking for this article I posted, and I was going to put it up in the, what the heck do you call it? The nest.
The nest, whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, the nest thing. Thank you, Nicky. It's always good to have that counterpoint.
Hey, before you go on, Kat, I just want to remind the other people in the room that this is a point counterpoint segment. So we will, if we have liberals that have their, if they have got their opinions, Democrats, that they're gonna bring them, and Nicky is more of a Democrat. Sorry, Nicky, I didn't mean to brutalize that. And so don't get on him for his opinion, please. I mean, you can disagree with it, but please be nice.
Thanks, Jason. So I'm going to post that here in a couple minutes, and I would definitely invite everyone to read that. I worked for 13 years in the weather industry. The company I worked for, no one would have ever heard of it, but they were the world's largest private weather data industry. They had weather scientists, I guess, for lack of better words. I was told that there's only like 7 people in the whole world that were certified to this high level, and we had 2 of them working for us. But anyway, it's been like 12 years since I worked there, but I did work there 13 years. And somewhere along the way, they did have a presentation where they explained that climate change was a hoax. Now, I feel like if there's only 7 people in the world certified to this degree with weather knowledge and scientific knowledge, and that's what they had to say, I feel like that seems pretty believable to me. At any rate, I'm going to go ahead and get that posted here in a moment. Jeannie, go ahead, please.
I noticed in the Pacific Northwest, that when there is like a cold spell that we have in winter, or like our summer so far has been as lousy as can be, they always say it's a weather event. But when it gets really hot and it gets to, 90 or 100 degrees, they call it climate change. If you follow the local meteorologists, in this area. So I they pick and choose what they call uh, climate change and what they call weather, and that to me is kind of frustrating.
Yeah, definitely. I'm with you there. I'm not sure if the best is next or Mar. My apologies.
It was the Dion had his hand up before all of them, just so you know.
Oh my, I'm sorry. I was getting that article posted, so I didn't see. Dion, welcome to the forum, and please, we'd love to hear what you have to say.
Well, thank you. Well, this has been on my mind for quite some time. Indoctrination starts in schools. So I asked this. Have you ever a teacher who was so far left or so insane that you just wanted to bash her head in? Because I did. This woman from Cameroon, her name was Miss Atua, and she believed that black people were the best. She said she didn't watch shows that didn't have any black
Hey,
people in.
Dion, my friend. You can bring that up in the next hour. This is a smaller segment. Katz is talking about climate change. I don't know if you have anything to say about climate change, but if you do, please chime in on climate change. But I'm not trying to shut you down, but we don't have a lot of time on this segment, my friend.
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, yeah. Okay. So, climate change. I am an outspoken advocate for what we need to do to solve climate change. Like, I've always been an environmentalist. I recycle regularly. I plant new trees. I make sure to not use that much power. I've always gave donations to organizations that help the rainforest, especially the Amazon, because it's one of the most beautiful places in the world. And I got all that from Captain Planet. It was sorry.
And thank you for contributing to organizations that help keep our green, especially like the Amazon rainforest. That's cool. So was it the best or Mar? My
Mar, and then
apologies.
the best, and then Nicky.
Okay, great. And I did get that article posted up there, and I certainly invite you to take a look at it, everybody.
Okay, climate change. I don't think it's as okay. This is going to be a negative response, but I don't think it's as serious as everybody says. So, you look back in history and you think back into the Egyptian days. It was a plush Greenland. I do believe climate change is not the way they're portraying it, like the end of the world. I believe that every region changes over time. Like, so Egypt was green and plush, and now it's desert. Other areas change over time. I don't believe. I don't believe that I'm a firm believer that what God created, no man can break. So I really firmly believe that there, man can't break this earth. Honestly, I don't think so. But I do believe that in the sense of climate change, that regions do change over time. It's just like when you talk about evolution, how men change. They were smaller in one period and now they're taller in another period. I do believe that it moves in a different direction. I don't necessarily think it's like the end of the world kind of change. It's more like it's a progression of it's going to move to different areas.
Yeah, and you're right. So many things do evolve. Absolutely. Best.
Yeah, I'm just gonna respond to what Nicky said. First of all, we didn't claim it in this space, at least, that the summer this year in Texas is abnormal. I, I wouldn't say it's abnormal, but there is no denying that, heat waves especially are becoming on par to like hurricanes in terms of how much it damages a population, especially in other places in the world. And I don't think that the conservative position is that the climate is not changing. I do think that was the conservative position in 2008, but pretty much every position we have wouldn't be the 2008 position. We've radically changed the party for the better since then. And so, 10 years ago, yeah, there was, I guess, a lot less, not science, but there was a lot less clear examples and less natural disasters than there is now. And that is why, you do have to take a look at it again now. However, about your analogy, I wouldn't compare it to a comet that's going to obliterate Earth. When a comet's coming, there's no chances of humans coexisting or still be able to live on the planet once it's destroyed. And also, comets are kind of not. You can't really do anything about them, and you can't mitigate them at all. I would more liken it to the pollution that's around our planet, broken, space stations and spacecraft, and there are some big enough pieces that could come into Earth and damage like a house or a building or a block if they're not, destroying the atmosphere sooner. And so when you look at that, you said, okay, well, what can we do? Well, first we can, stop sending up new space trash, but not at the complete expense of the space industry. And we have been sending less up there, in the past few decades, just as we've stopped really putting carbon into the air, and we've, put in less of it decade after decade and year after year. And then we have to say, well, how can we coexist with it? How can we make, new spacecraft, withstand more of these impacts? And how can you make, places on Earth more resistant to hurricanes, more resistant to heat waves? That's why I support a complete reformation of FEMA and how we get money to areas affected by this, and also the places in the world that aren't first world countries and can't do what we do. How do we solve that problem? And that's what we need to. That's how we solve climate change. Not to stop or slow the climate change, because I honestly believe that the temperature increase of the year 2100 will be the temperature increase in 2100, no matter what initiatives, no matter what the hashtags are, no matter how many bottles we take out of the ocean. Those are all good things, but they won't affect the bottom line at the end of the day. What we can do is help humans now withstand the difficulties they're having now.
Okay. So,
Excellent. Thank you. Go ahead, Nicky.
Thank you,
You're
Cass.
fine.
So, a couple of things. You said that we have been putting less and less stuff into outer space than we were in previous generations, in previous years. That is completely incorrect. We have put more satellites up into orbit around this planet in the last 20 years than we did in all the previous time going back to the 60s, 50s. And it has been ever increasing with microsatellites. There is more and more shit up there today than there was at any other point, and we are putting more and more up there as a per year amount than at any other point. It is easier and easier. The funny thing about that is that's also true about carbon. The majority of the carbon that is in the atmosphere today has been put there in the last 20 years. That is how much carbon we are continuing to pump into the atmosphere on a yearly basis, and how much it's increasing with worldwide production of steel, with just rising economic pressures across the world. It used to be that the US was the only one that was a first world country. Now half the world is a first world country. It has demands on energy that are pushing exactly as much carbon today in those countries as we were 50 years ago. So you were wrong on both counts, but accurate in that there is the modernization of society has led to more and more of both of those things and more problems. The result of which, entertainingly enough, you were saying, oh, well, what happens if we have collisions and then stuff comes down and hits somebody? That's not the risk when it comes to stuff that's up around in orbit. The risk is GPS satellites being knocked out and you not having global positioning when you're trying to figure out where the hell you are. The risk is communications satellites being knocked out, and there goes your satellite TV, there goes your internet connection, a point to point, obviously, not your direct connection to the internet. Communications between, for phone conversations, for, digital, for government spying, for all kinds of other stuff that we rely on indirectly for those space links. So it's not, and this is valuable to understand because it's the same kind of category error that people miss when they're trying to think about climate change. And to, I think it was Kat's point or Mag's point or somebody, the way to think about climate change is to think about climate change like you think about a relationship. Because I can have a relationship with my partner that on any given day is really, really great or really, really terrible. They can be a dick to me for one reason or another. They can be sweet to me for one reason or another. And it would be inaccurate and a poor way of thinking about it to judge that relationship by how it is on any one day. But if you evaluate the relationship over time, you can ask pretty much anyone, how's your relationship going? And they're not going to talk about what was just happening yesterday. They're going to evaluate it based on how it's been for a long time. Has it been getting better? Has it been getting worse? What kind of broad trajectory are you on? And I think that's when you talk about separating, Kat, you're unmuted. When you talk about separating like the weather from the climate, that's really what you're talking about. You're talking about separating what was it like yesterday, what's the day to day, with
And
what's the overall,
yeah, I am unmuted because we just have short amounts of time per speaker, and we have a few minutes and we have a few hands. So
Just for
that's
this
why I was
segment. Just for this segment,
trying
Nikki.
to.
Sorry.
Yeah, I
Oh,
was
got it.
just trying
I
to
wasn't clear that
find a.
Katz was moderating this. Sorry, because you weren't a co-host. So my apologies.
Yeah,
That's okay.
no,
No
it's
worries,
fine.
Nikki.
I just was trying to find a point to pop in there and let you know that. But thank you.
Got it.
Bess, quickly, did you have any counterpoint to what Nikki just said, or you want me to move on to GayCon?
Yeah, just don't get stuck up on the analogy.
All right, good enough. GayCon, what you got?
GayCon and Jeannie are the last two for this segment.
Okay.
I just wanted to say really quickly, I don't, this is not a topic that I've studied or know, an immense amount about. But I will say I have talked to people who are scientists, relatively in that field. I just want to basically say that the more that I went into my education and went through grad school and read scientific paper after scientific paper on various topics, people say science is science, and the science is settled and all of that stuff. All of that is not true, right? Science is not just science. Science is never just settled. You always have to look at the fine print, if you know what I mean. So you always have to look at, okay, these are your conclusions, but how did you get to those conclusions? What was your methodology? And oh, by the way, who funded this research? Whose bottom line are you trying to toe here? All of that stuff definitely takes into account what those conclusions are going to be, and any scientific quote unquote research that I read or hear about, I always am skeptical of, and I always go back and try to look for, okay, what was the methodology, how was this found, and who paid for it? Because that all of that is very always enlightening. Yeah, I'll end there.
That was a great way to end with just kind of a FYI of how to do your research. That was excellent. Jeannie, what do you have?
I was just going to say, in terms of our planet, for numerous decades, I've heard what's going to happen if we don't do X, Y, Z. And, I think some we've accomplished. But then we export our coal out to China and let them pollute to, their heart's content. The other thing is there's a lot of things we can do in terms of reducing our plastic usage, paper usage, which, through the use of computers, we pretty much have. So we're not, wasting a lot of trees. Obviously you can't get rid of toilet paper, but, we have been doing really well. And I just got to say, probably 20 years ago, they were talking about the poor polar bears, they were going to end up becoming extinct because, areas of Alaska was going to end up with no snow, and that didn't come true either.
All right, that's it for this segment. Nicky, keep your comments because I got some more stuff and I want you to jump in, bro. You got some good stuff to say, my friend. But let's. I want to get going. It's past 9. Go ahead, Kat, and finish what you were going to say.
Yeah, just quickly. It just seems like the left keeps raising the bar, like way back when it was, in 1970, it was, if you don't do this, this, and this by 1980, really bad things are going to happen. And then 1980 comes along and it's like, if you don't do this, this, and this by 1990, really bad things are going to happen, and nothing happened. But I did want to ask you, Jason, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I'll close out saying that I believe the Earth is changing, but if you look at some things back in the day, there are things that still, as far as climate change is concerned, I believe that things aren't always changed. I take the stance that Mar takes, where I just believe that God has this planet, despite what's going on. Now, that being said, I do agree with Nicky that we have a lot of trash that we keep sending satellites up, and they don't clean that trash up, and that kind of stuff doesn't help the Earth when that stuff just falls. And who knows what could happen with that. But as far as climate change is concerned, I feel like the Earth is still going to be doing what the Earth does. You know what I mean? And that's, I'll just leave it at that for now, just because that's my opinion on that.
Can I have 15 more seconds, please?
Yes, you can take 15 seconds.
I forget who it was. I think it might have been George Carlin who said this, and it's one of my favorite quotes about climate change. When it comes to the climate, the Earth is going to be fine. The Earth is still going to be here. We are fucked, but the Earth will be fine.
Okay. Well, you kept it short. You kept it right there. So that's good. All right. Let's move on to the next stuff. We're going to go to headlines, and GayCon, when I do headlines, I'm not looking at the screen. Normally Kat does this. And the reason why Kat is not the co-host tonight, guys, is she'll probably leave at some point. She's not feeling well. So she did Reducation still, was a trooper, but GayCon was awesome and came and filled in. I really appreciate it. So will you watch Hands GayCon? You and Bess, just keep an eye on Hands when I'm reading that. Okay, cool. And that being said, GayCon, go ahead and read our forum guidelines, and I'll go right into headlines after that.
Sure thing. So, as freedom thinkers in the conservative political forum, we believe in and value our constitutional rights. We also recognize that even amongst ourselves, there are varied opinions. This forum is a safe place for all. We won't tolerate personal attacks or raised voices. We do also ask that you be considerate of persons who prefer not to hear profanity. Please be self-aware of your mic time. We want to ensure everyone who wants to contribute to a particular topic can.
And I did want to thank everyone quickly for your participation in our education segment. Excellent. Thank you.
All right. Taking away my time, guys. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just teasing. I like to talk. I'm playing around. My wife is making fun of me in the background because I said something. I'm sorry. That wasn't nice. You guys are all awesome. I'm so glad you're here. Everybody. I just love it. So here we go. Before I read the headlines, I do this every week, and I'm going to read a scripture. I'm sorry if you're not into that. I just got to do it because I feel like it could be for somebody. I had a friend this week that went through something, and this scripture was on my heart, so I gave it to them, and I believe it helped them, and I want to read it for other people who might be going through some stuff right now. In Jeremiah 29:11, it says, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you, not to harm you, plans to give you a hope and a future." I hope that helps somebody today, because we all go through things, and sometimes we think, man, we're alone on this earth, and we are not. God is there for us, and we all have I believe we all have some sort of faith in this room, and I think that's awesome. So there we go with that. Now we'll go to headlines, this is a segment where I will read the headlines. As soon as you see something that you want to talk about on the headlines, you may raise your hand, and then GayCon or the best will let me know who was next. And once we get going in the headlines, I'll be able to call you out and stuff. But here we go. Kari Lake says Arizona desperately needs a governor who will project strength, confidence to the masses, while also keeping the residents safe, ensuring election integrity, and giving the state's economy every possible chance to grow. It's going to take one strong governor to solve the border crisis, and that's why I'm running, Lake told Newsmax on Wednesday while appearing on America Agenda with Bob Sellers. Lake pledges that we're going to go and we're going to get the ball rolling on day one when I issue a declaration of invasion regarding the border crisis. So I'd like to talk about that and see what you guys think about that. A man accused of spraying gunfire into Chicago in a Chicago area Independence Day parade from the rooftops, killing at least 7 people and wounding dozens more, has confessed to the attack and was considering a second shooting later that day, authorities said Wednesday. The suspect, Robert Crimo, 21, he's Robert Crimo III, 21, dressed in black, has appeared from jail on video link, bowed his head during the hearing. The Lake County courthouse where the bail was denied on the 7 first-degree murder charges. Assistant Attorney Ben Dillon told the judge that Crimo made a voluntary statement confessing his actions. So we can talk about that. That's sad that happened, and I'm sure we'll have some stuff to talk about with that. Here's some quick headlines, because I want to go over some of these. If you want to, you guys can choose. That's why I read them, and then we talk about stuff. Dutch governor launches Canada-style crackdown on farmers protesting climate policies. So we just talked about climate change. That's kind of interesting that other countries are going through that too. The father of the 4th of July shooting suspect helped him buy guns after police flagged him as a clear and present danger. That's not good. And I think that's ridiculous that happened. Biden administration sues over Arizona's law requiring proof of citizenship to vote in federal elections. Texas counties say border crisis is an invasion. So like Kari Lake saying she wants to declare Arizona as an invasion. So maybe you guys will have something to say about that. Texas is also saying that. And then Trump says lifting China's tariffs is a terrible mistake. So we could talk about that as well. I got this one here that Best Peoples might actually have something to say about. And then I've got a really sad story I want to tell you about real quick that happened. Texas Governor Greg Abbott is leading his Democratic gubernatorial challenger, former Rep. Beto O'Rourke, 45 to 39%, according to the University of Texas Politics Project poll released on Wednesday. 10% of those surveyed said they had not thought about the race enough to have an opinion. So 10% haven't thought about it, and they don't have an opinion, while 6 said they would choose someone else for governor. The poll is similar to the CBS News U Governor Texas poll that was released last week, in which 49% support Abbott and 41% back O'Rourke. So we can talk about that. And then sadly, I just want to bring this up because this is sad. Brad Freeman, he was the last surviving member of the East Company in World War II that was portrayed as the World War II series Band of Brothers, has passed away. Freeman was 97 Sunday. And so that's kind of sad. And we can talk about that and bring that stuff up if you want. And with that, we got hands, and I did not see the hands raised because I was reading. So for a couple minutes, I'll start watching hands. But for a couple minutes, GayCon, I need your help, or you and Bess, to kind of help me find out whose hands were up and stuff.
It looked like, well, Nicky was definitely first. It looked like he wanted to talk about the Kari Lake.
Yeah. Okay, go ahead, Nicky, and you can jump in on one of the headlines that you want to talk about. But if it's the Kari Lake one, start with that, and then come back on another subject after, or what?
So I'm a big fan of Kari Lake. I think she is a fantastic choice for the Arizona GOP. I think she would be a great Republican nominee, and I really hope the GOP decides that she's the right person. I was a big fan of her mom, Ricki Lake. And I think that, I'm just kidding about that, by the way, to those of you.
Yeah. I was going to say, what? I thought there was a joke coming.
Well, no, the Ricki Lake part I'm joking about. Her mom. Maybe nobody in here is old enough to know who Ricki Lake is.
I heard. Yeah, I am. But
Google it. No, I think that she would be a great choice for Arizona. I think that the Republican Party represents a lot of what she's been talking about, and that she's been right about what the Republican Party should be talking more about. And would really hope to see her on the general election ballot. So I'm glad she's getting a lot of press. More and more people are saying that she should be the Republican nominee. In terms of the other stuff, I mean, I'm so fucking tired of the guns at this point. Like, I'm just so over it. I think gun deaths speak for themselves at this point. And if you're not already sick of your city being shot up, just wait. It's going to happen to you soon enough. Someone's going to come to your hometown and try to kill 10 people, and see how you feel then.
Don't worry. Where I live, gun violence has gone off the charts because of some of the laws that have been passed.
Yeah. Anyway, so I think that kind of thing, it's not even worth arguing over anymore. I think Americans are going to make up their own minds as more shit happens. In terms of the death from, I forget what his name was, the gentleman who was the last survivor of Easy Company.
Yeah, what'd you think about that?
I mean, I've seen Band of Brothers probably 5 times straight through. I've read, all of their Wikipedia pages. Richard Winters more than the others. I have lots of thoughts about when, there's the whole idea that they were the greatest generation, and they were absolutely, they were asked to do things that very few other generations in American history have been asked to do, and they rose to the occasion. I do wonder if, a world war came today and China decided to invade, and we were faced with either, losing our country or, fighting back, how much, the Zoomers would be able to do the same thing that folks like him did. And I think that there's a decent chance that they would rise to the occasion as well. Maybe in different ways. The music would probably be a little different, but there's no escaping both what they did and also how weird it was. And Band of Brothers captures this a little bit, but some other stuff captures it better. To go and do that and win that war and then come back and have to lead like just a normal average life, you know what I mean, and just be like, and how that shaped the America of the late 1940s and 50s. So I feel like, one of the sort of tragedies of, my grandfather was that generation. He fought in World War II. He liberated a concentration camp. He saw a lot of the Eastern Front. And I think for the younger folks today, for a lot of people in here of like Sean's age, for example, they may never meet someone who served in the war and be able to have conversations about, what that period meant to America. And I think part of, quite honestly, and I know I'm talking to a bunch of Republicans, part of the reason your party has fallen so far from what it was like under Reagan is because people in your party today have lost touch with what it was like to go through World War II and have lost touch with the type of people who fought that war and what they gave so much for and what they believed in. And I feel like that distance has hurt both parties, but it's hurt the Republican Party, which used to be the standard bearer for those ideals, a lot more.
Thank you, Nicky. And I want to say that my grandpa served in World War II and died in 2014, but I used to take him to doctor's appointments and we talked a lot about it. And I feel like just this generation below us, Nicky, probably some people just don't understand. They take things for granted. And I just never want to forget that. And Band of Brothers is a great TV series. If you guys don't have it, I own it. And I agree with Nicky. You should watch it because it is really, you can go back and it really portrays history and it's really good to see. So thanks for those comments, Nicky. Who was next, GayCon?
Sean was next.
Sean, go ahead and any of the topics. Which one did you have to?
Can we circle back around to me? I just had to step away for a moment.
Oh yeah, no problem. We can circle back.
So, Kelli was next.
All right, go ahead, Kelli.
I'm going to touch base real quick about what you said about World War II. My father-in-law was actually considered KIA, and turned out he wasn't, but, he was on ground troops. My grandfather was a gunner's mate on the USS Randolph, and he did talk to me about what they went through. And the ship that is in Corpus Christi called the Gray Ghost was actually a sister ship to my grandfather's. And there is a Japanese flag on the control tower on the Gray Ghost where a kamikaze hit it. And my grandfather told me stories about what that was like and trying to bring the wounded over to their ship to treat them. So it's definitely a very different outlook from what we have now in this generation. And it is a shame that we will have no more history to connect to when it comes to World War II.
Definitely. I do agree. I often feel that way. They're the great. I feel like they're the greatest generation. I just love talking to them and stuff. Like Nicky was saying, my grandpa and and just seeing them get interviewed and stuff and about what they've been through and what they went through. And some of them they went through way more than any of us have ever been through. GayCon, who's next?
And Jeannie was next.
Jeannie, and then is it the best, and then Sean?
Absolutely.
Okay, let's go that route. Go ahead, Jeannie. Jeannie, you there? Is it me, or can you guys hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. We must have lost Jeannie.
Okay, go ahead, Best.
Yeah, so I just wanted to comment on the two Texas stories. So first, the new poll that came out from UT, which was a very anticipated event today, and shows that the race has narrowed, I guess, compared to last week. Abbott's still going to win, but Beto has been running a very strong campaign, and especially over the July 4th weekend, in which if you're running for office, you better be at like 10 different picnics on July 4th, because everyone is outside, together. It's like the perfect opportunity. So Beto was at, I think, like 4 to 5 events and like had a concert with Willie Nelson, and he was in front of tens of thousands of people. And Abbott was absolutely nowhere. He didn't even post any picture of himself the entire weekend. So, it's no surprise. But the second story is about the invasion. So, Donald Trump tried to get Abbott to declare an official invasion. And even then it was symbolic. But since Trump was out of office and the border crisis has exploded, there's been a lot of push, especially from his primary challengers, to declare an invasion, forget the federal government, and just deal with it yourself. And Abbott's response is to not. He wants to deal with it himself, kind of, sort of, in a very symbolic way for the cameras, and then turn around and get the federal government to pay for it, meaning you can't really betray the federal government like that if you want them to pay for it eventually. So he's been very afraid to officially declare an invasion. So a bunch of these counties got together and said, like, we can't do this anymore, and got together and tried to declare an emergency themselves, like declare an emergency in the county. And like a few of them got together and had a big press conference and signed a bunch of very fancy looking documents. And Representative Chip Roy was there encouraging Abbott to do this. And it really was a letter really to Abbott, if you look like what it was technically, to do something. Abbott hasn't done anything and won't do anything, but it's just kind of the next step. It's getting talked about more. It's getting pushed just a little bit more. And then Kari Lake is saying that she will do it, but I don't get the sense that that's kind of coming from a place of good intentions. And I think, she's just saying that because it's cool to say that without really thinking through the ramifications of exactly what that would mean. I don't, I'll say I don't think you should support Kari Lake. If you're in Arizona, I don't think you should vote for her. But this, I understand that is her position, and it's good that that position is becoming more mainstream. But her specifically, I don't see it as coming from a place of good intentions. And in Texas, it is kind of only coming from a place of good intentions because only the very minority of politicians would even dare to say that. And Dan Patrick, the lieutenant governor, was on TV today, kind of, sort of, first, like, even opening the idea, the possibility of that. And so he's gotten a lot of praise for even, thinking of it when people have been advocating this for like a year or two now. So that's all the Texas news.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Best, for bringing those, bringing that information. Jeannie, are you back? Maybe she got. Who knows? All right. Well, let's keep going with some of these other headlines. I actually like to talk more about World War II and this band, this member who died, because I think Nicky is totally right about the generation forgetting about our country. It just brings, I can get emotional. It brings tears to my eyes to think, are people actually forgetting where our grandparents and what they did to fight for this country? Neo, you got your hand raised. Go ahead.
Well, I think you're 100% correct on that. I'm just going to agree with you. I'm not going to sit here and waste all day talking about it. But can you maybe touch on like some of the videos I saw and maybe give me some context on applesauce brains putting the Medal of Honor on backwards, trying to give our Vietnam vets, because we're moving on. Obviously you're talking World War II, but did I see that video right? Can somebody like help me out on that one?
I don't know. Did you see it, Nicky? Did you see what happened with that?
I don't know what you like. There were too many conservative euphemisms in there for me to know what you guys were talking about.
Well, I apologize if I took it from World War II to Vietnam, but I'm just saying, just the whole how we're just trying to like.
Well, Best might have it actually. Go ahead, Best.
I saw the video yesterday, Tuesday. President Biden gave the Medal of Honor to 4 Vietnam vets who had previously gotten lower designations, but were recently upgraded to the highest one. And on the ceremony, there is a video that it appears that Biden puts the medal around his neck backwards, but either he didn't or it was reversed, seconds later, because there are pictures of this guy with the medal the right way.
And I'm just saying that's embarrassing. That's all I'm saying. That's my point.
I mean, it's understandable that, that someone could put a medal on backwards. We've all put a shirt on backwards or something.
Not really. I disagree.
No, I mean, it is. And I'm sure it's happened before with other presidents. If we went back and looked at previous, Medal of Honor ceremonies, I'm sure, I'm fine with you guys going after Biden for things that he actually does wrong. And trust me, he does a lot that's actually wrong, but this stuff is just stupid. I'm sorry, but I want to address something with relation to all of this that I think is both newsworthy because it literally just got written up in the New York Times today, and also on point to what we've just been talking about and what Jason's just said, and that is Blake Masters. Because Masters, according to the New York Times, and I'd heard this before being from Silicon Valley and sort of running in similar circles and having met Blake twice. Yeah, twice. He opposed U.S. intervention in World War II and had said publicly on a public forum and in private conversations more than once that he thought the U.S. should have stayed out of World War I and World War II. And I'm wondering how that's going to play in Arizona with a lot of over 65 in particular voters who remember their parents going off to war, and who think positively about the U.S. involvement in World War II. So I do think we're going to have some of this conversation playing out in, assuming Masters wins the primary, which I think he will, in the general election, because you'll have an astronaut running against someone who opposed World War II, basically.
Again, I think that the people who are in the know and in the news enough aren't supporting Masters anyway.
Sure, but he's going to have to face the voters if he wins the nomination. And you're all going to have to defend him if he's the nominee.
I'm not defending him, and I don't think he has a good chance anyway. I also hope, he may not be the nominee.
All right, so let's go on to another topic, and I'm gonna take us right there. Here we go. Hold on. I know that Nicky's not really in the gun control topic, and I totally understand because we've had a lot of conversations about that. But I want your opinion, even yours, Nicky, on this Chicago shooter, because that's just, it's sad. You know what I mean? It's sad that this kid would do this, and how somebody can just murder to murder. I want to bring a topic up that I want you guys to jump in and help me understand. And this is from the right and the left. And I get this from dark mega people who get mad at me for defending some of my liberal friends, and I also get this from liberal people. But you know, in the UK now, they've banned guns, and certain people think, well, yeah, now see, there's not as many killings, but there's still a lot of killings in the UK with knives. Now they're trying to ban knives. Where do we stop with this banning of just utensils and weapons? If we, not just guns. And Nicky, I'd like your perspective, not from the gun perspective when you do raise your hand, but from the perspective that I feel like at some point we've got to stop just saying, oh, we'll just ban this next, and we'll ban that. We're going to ban baseball bats, and then just what do we do to help the people that actually have the issues, that are mentally going through stuff, that are picking up these weapons and actually murdering people? I mean, I can't fathom murdering anybody. That does not run through my head. I don't go down the street going, oh man, I'm gonna kill that. It does not register in me. I could never do that. So let's go with Neo first, then Mar, and then Nicky.
Well, I think you just touched on it right there. Like, I think you just really have a serious mental issue problem, because that's the thing that drives us, I think, all crazy. We talk about climate change and the money we have to send towards that. And we talk about all this. I mean, you've seen the videos, Jason. I know you have. I know Hamar has. Her and I have talked about that. Where like a dude just like walks down in Seattle and just like pushes a nurse down an escalator, at a bus stop, or does this. Like, and we're not. It's the laws, and it's just I just feel like some of the talking points in blue states like we live in are just, it's always just deflection, and it's always about never addressing what the problem is, and that is drugs, and it's lawlessness. It's people not being held accountable for these evil acts they're doing. It's just evil. It's mental illness. It's not the guns. It's not the guns. And with climate change, if we could all have electric cars, it would not fix anything, in my opinion. It's just because then we would have brownouts and blackouts. It's just, there's huger issues, and we seem to be moving on to like the next best thing to talk about. And it's so right now, guns. So define an assault rifle to me. It's like, well, dude, my 22 holds 18 rounds. It's just, do you see how it just constantly gets deflected to the next thing? And we never seem to address what the actual elephant in the room is. That's just my point.
And to your point, Neo, I agree, but I can see where the left comes from with, okay, well, we shouldn't have people being able to get guns, these people shouldn't get guns. And I agree, there are certain people that shouldn't have guns. But to my point, there are people that shouldn't have guns that are going to find a way to get some sort of weapon and run people over and kill them, or do something else. And we've got to figure out how to get to those people and reach those people. Mar, go ahead.
100%. That's the mental illness, because you're right. A car is just as dangerous as a gun. Let's be honest.
Definitely. Mar, go ahead. Thank you, Neo.
Okay, so I was getting my thoughts. Okay, so when a person wants to harm another individual, they're going to find a means to do it, whether it be with their bare hands, like in the Bible with Cain and Abel, or with a car, with a bottle, with a gun, with a knife. Bad people are going to find a way to harm another person if they really want to. Blaming a gun just seems really ridiculous to me, because if you throw that gun on the ground, it's not going to do anything to you. It's that dangerous person that possess that gun that creates the damage. Now, they need to take focus on, making consequences for these people that are going around harming people. There needs to be stricter consequences. And not only that, just like the war on drugs, how's that going? People are still dying as people are still getting drugs. If you take guns away from legal owners, law-abiding citizens, criminals are always going to get guns. They're always going to get a weapon. And then not only that, it's, you have people that are killing each other in cars. You have people that are killing each other in, heck, with baseball bats. And there is some that hit somebody in the head with a baseball bat just the other day, right? So dangerous people are going to always get guns. Now, how do you defend yourself if we're not allowed to protect ourselves? Law-abiding citizens, if we're not allowed to protect ourselves, the criminals are always going to get that. So where do we get that protection? And so I firmly believe in the Second Amendment. I firmly believe that we have a right to defend ourselves. I do believe that they need to do stricter background checks and keep people that are dangerous away from guns. But that said, I'm going to flip that around a little bit. They want to get rid of guns, but your politicians and your politicians and your celebrities and everybody want to be protected by armed guards. So what kind of message does that really send to America? Like, okay, I don't want you to have a gun to protect your family, but I'm going to have armed guard to protect mine. I mean, it just goes right along with the double standards that are with everything else they're doing in this world. Wear a mask, but I'm going to go to a party and not wear a mask. So it doesn't make any sense. They need to have something consistent and something that's feasible for everybody to get on board with. But taking guns away from a legal owner when criminals can is not the answer.
Thank you for that. And I see that point. I agree with that point. And I think that, there's some mental health issues and that we could figure out. So to that, Nicky, you have your hand raised, but before you speak, bro, I want your opinion, not on the banning of guns, because I understand where you're coming from. I know where you're at with that, but give me from your perspective, because I love hearing what you have to say about it. What do we do about the mental, this side of people? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I just want to say first off, you can take my spork from my cold, dead hands. Oh, come on. I only got one fucking reaction for that. If I'm going to make a Clint Eastwood written, no.
No. That was funny, bro. Sorry. I was
okay.
sorry about that.
I'm just saying I was pretty proud of myself for that one.
No, I mean, yeah, you got it. All right, go ahead.
Anyway, I think it was interesting.
I'm sorry, there was no reaction on a boo emoji.
Neo described the problem and the fact that there's always an evasion from the problem, because I think that most liberals would agree with him and would say that when it comes to guns, conservatives always want to talk about drugs, and they want to talk about mental health, and they want to talk about schools, and they want to talk about video games, and they want to talk about literally name every other potential cultural problem to avoid talking about guns. And I mean, I agree that mental health is an issue. This kid clearly had some fucked up mental health issues and did not get the help he needed. I was reading a story about the kid who did a school shooting up in like Minneapolis or something. I'm forgetting the city now. This is kind of depressing. There have been so many of them that I don't remember. And his parents are on trial now because his parents gave him the gun and he was 15 years old and encouraged him to have it and all of this stuff, and knew he was having issues, and it wasn't just oh, here, boy, it was, they very explicitly were they knew what they were doing was stupid and they did it anyway, which is why they're charged with involuntary manslaughter. But they're trying to avoid at his trial, and I was reading about this, having his diary introduced, in part because there's a literal line in his diary where he says, I have told my parents about the bad thoughts and they refuse to get me any help. And I think that is just, for a 15-year-old to be dealing with horrible, horrible mental health issues and bring it to his family and be told, this isn't a real thing, don't get help, speaks volumes about the mental health crisis that we have in this country, and the number of parents who don't want to face up to the fact that their kids might have problems and go get help. That may also be because they don't know how to, because we don't provide good resources, because even kids who can get Medicaid coverage, don't get it because their parents don't know how to get it for them or don't know how to get it for themselves. So, I mean, my typical liberal answer is we do a shitty job of helping kids and young adults lead healthy lives in this country, providing the resources so that they can do so that they can get mental health. There are no school shooters that come from rich families, is the best way I've ever been able to describe the difference between, sort of where these social ills come from. There are very, very, very few stories about kids who are rich, who go on to do school shootings, who go on to do any kind of the even halfway insane things that we hear about people doing, even though they have the best access to guns of anyone because they can buy them off their friends. A rich kid can get a gun anytime he wants to. But they're not the ones going out and doing this. And it's because they have better things to do with their time. And the ones who have mental health issues are getting treatment for it.
Can I ask you another question, Nicky?
Yeah.
This is my opinion too, and maybe I think some of these parents, they use like the TV and the video games as a babysitter. Yep. Would you think that that's the case too? In some of that not getting help?
I don't think kids should have access to a smartphone until high school. I don't think kids should have more than an hour or two of screen time a day. I think that we in America have a lot of really lazy parents, and that's because we've trained them to think that's okay and trained them to be lazy. And if honestly, the difference is if you grow up in a culture like I did, if you grew up in a city like I did, if you grew up with parents who are, graduate school educated, who have good jobs, and all of that, you grow up in a culture where it is unacceptable to sit your kids in front of the TV for 4 hours. And if you're a parent who does that and other parents, your friends, whatever, find out about it, they look down on you for it. So that's part of the reason why people don't do it, is because it is easy to do. But when you're judged for it by other people, you don't do it as much, even though it's the easy thing to do.
Thank you for that, Nicky. I really appreciate that, and that's I do agree in some ways. I did grow up in foster homes, and somehow I stayed out of that situation. I mean, I've had to work my way to where I am now, working hard to get where I am. But Cats, you have your hand up, and then it looks like Jeannie's back. So I don't know if Jeannie's got her hand up for something or what, but we'll call on Jeannie after Cats.
All right, I think I still got a little steam left. So I posted this in the Nest. Tucker Carlson did a interesting interview a couple nights ago, I think it was, about reasons why we have these young male killers with the mass shootings. And there's been quite a few of them that were on some kind of a antidepressant type of drug for a good period of time. Now, I'm not going to claim to know everything about those types of drugs or any types of drugs for that matter. But this person he was interviewing drew a strong correlation between being on those types of drugs for a longer period of time and the side effects and what those end up doing that may contribute to a person actually committing such crimes. So again, I posted it up in the Nest, and I certainly would encourage everyone to listen to it. I know the doctor is just a listener, but I sure would love to hear his opinion on long-term effects on.
He's working, Cat. I'm not going to bug him right now. He's just listening tonight. Sorry, he's just listening.
Oh, okay. Because it just would be good to know from a medical professional long-term effects of these kind of drugs. I mean, in the side effects, even though they're supposed to, it seems silly, prevent you from killing yourself, but it seems like some of the side effects we'll read and say, could cause feelings of, wanting to kill yourself. It's like, what? Anyway, I'm gonna give up my mic.
Okay, Jeannie, you have your hand raised.
I have two things to say. Number one, the progressives, want people to give up their guns because there's millions of gun owners, and a few of these kids, go out in public and kill people. And conservatives say that mental health is the problem, and then the progressive come back and say, no, there's millions of people out there, and they don't kill people. So they're saying the same thing, and neither one of them are quite right when it comes to the progressive stand, in my opinion. And the other thing is, when it comes to antidepressants, the SSRIs, which most of these people are on, when kids are at their I don't know what you call it, at their worst, and parents take them into the doctor and they put them on these SSRIs, and then it takes like 6 weeks for it to be effective. So in those 6 weeks, they're still very volatile. And then kids, they get on it, they stop taking it, they get side effects from stop taking it, and then troubles start again. So, because sometimes there is a rebound from it, but if they take it consistently, in my experience with the people I've dealt with, that's not the problem. I'm no doctor, but I've noticed that to be true. So, people, doctors can come and, say, but for every one doctor, there's another doctor that will, say something different. And people have been on SSRIs for eons, at least 20 years. And because of that, they have a lot of case studies on the effects of taking them. And all these other people, most of these people are, young adults, but you don't see 60-year-old men who are on antidepressants having the same sort of, reaction to them. So I'm not really buying that philosophy that, it's the drugs we're giving people, because I think for most people they're more helpful than they are hurtful.
Okay. And I understand that. I do think it just depends on the person too, right? And also what they've been through in their life. And if they ever feel like they can get out of the situation they're in. Nicky is right about some of these things with when it comes to rich kids. They have their own issues, obviously, but I think that most rich kids don't think about going to a school because they have nothing left to lose and killing people. And who knows what else? What else is going through their mind when they go through this stuff? But yeah, Jeannie, did you have something to add to that?
Right. Rich kids don't necessarily, go out and strike out. They kill their parents instead.
Well, this or that, right? That's not funny. That's just it's a lot of mental things can happen. You got to be. A lot of people don't get strong in their life until they've been through something so horrible that they either choose to grow from it, or they choose to go the other direction. Right. So myself, I've been through some stuff. There were nights when I was up at 2 a.m. going, Lord, what's going on in my life? I don't want to live because this is just ridiculous. And so you either get molded, or you go and you do what Nicky was saying, you go shoot up a school, and if you can't get through it and stuff. So let's go Neo and then Mar.
Well, I think actually Maura's going to say what I say. I might be wrong on that, but I tell you right now that I have so much confidence in all my 19, 15, and 10-year-old is, you know what they have? One thing that's in common. They have religion and God in their life. And I tell you what, and they're not rich. They are rich kids. We are rich. We're all rich. It's just, I have a good job. They have God in their life. And my kids would never do that. And yes, I have guns.
Well, yeah, the foundation, I believe a foundation is, God is a foundation in anybody's life. If they put him first, I do. That's the way I've gotten through what I've gotten through. But some of these other kids don't go that route. And so because of that, I think that adds to it. Mar, go ahead.
Okay, I will piggyback on that. God is the foundation of my life and Christians' lives, and I've lived some hard things in my life. I mean, I've been to some lowest of lows, and not one time did I ever think to myself, "Gee, I want to go shoot people up." I've dealt with my issues and learned how to move forward, and God helped me with a lot of that. Actually, God helped me with all of that. He turned everything around, and in turn, because I had a bad childhood too, I didn't have good parents, and I turned around and focused in on my children. So I was very strict with my kids. I taught my kids values and morals, and this is before God. And then once I had God in my life, we we taught I taught my children self-respect and how to respect others and how to understand no. I mean, I think one of the biggest problems in society's kids today is that they don't understand the word no, and they act out on that, and some take it too far. I feel that our kids are lacking discipline, they're lacking guidance, they're lacking God, they're lacking a lot of structure that they need to be better people. And I think it stems from, I was a single mom for a long time, and I raised my children by myself. And so I think that it stems from, not the absence of two-parent homes, the lack of skills to raise your kids. And I think parenting does have a lot to do with how your kids are shaped and what you build their foundations on. And if you're building them on, latchkey kids and they got to fend for themselves, what are they going to do? Naturally, they're going to go get involved in things that aren't good for them. So I think it's something that we need to focus more energy on in our children, other than, things that aren't necessary right now. And that's just my opinion on that.
Well, I think that's very, very good and very important. I can say to you guys, I went through foster homes, and my mother and father were an alcoholic. My mother was an alcoholic, and she was married 7 different times by the time I became. By the time I was 7 years old, and I was beat as a kid, and I went through foster homes. But I grew up. Somehow I had faith as a kid. I think that's what kept me from totally getting snagged into worse stuff. You know what I mean? But some of these two-parent homes, I think there's a lot of broken homes, and that's not good. I don't think has helped. I don't care if you're a mother or father. I don't care if you're 2 gay men raising a kid. Two lesbian. I think that obviously, broken homes does not help. Fatherless homes does not help. People need men in their life. Kids need a man in their life to show them how to get through some things. They also need a mother in their life to show them how to be a mother. Broken homes is not good. I just don't think it is helpful. And when I went through foster homes, I mean, I didn't see some of that stuff and how it affected me, But at the same time, there are parents that aren't broken and do what Nicky was saying, and here, you play video games, and we're gonna smoke, and we're gonna go drink. You play video, and they start using that as a babysitter, and that's not good, because then the kid's not getting they're not being taken care of. They're not learning how to be responsible in their life as well. So it's those are the issues that we have. And you know what? Colin's here. I'd like to hear Colin's opinion on it. Colin, do you have a two-parent home, or were you raised by a single parent or what? Sorry I put you on the spot, buddy. I just wanted your opinion. He's probably not there. Well, with that being said, we are coming up on our third hour, the overtime hour, and I'm really glad you guys are sticking around. The best is going to take over with a topic. But before we do that, Katz has been not feeling well, so she's the speaker tonight until she's ready to leave. And GayCon stepped in. And by the way, GayCon, I'm so thankful that you did. Thank you for stepping in. I know I've said that a million times, but I'm always grateful for that. Will you read the forum guidelines? And I'm just going to I know it's a little bit before 10, but I'm going to let the best take over because he's got a couple things to talk about, and I want him to have some time to talk about it before the final hour ends quickly.
Sure. Sorry. One more time here. Okay. As political thinkers in the conservative political forum, as freedom thinkers in the conservative political forum, we believe in and value our constitutional rights. We also recognize that even amongst ourselves, there are varied opinions. This forum is a safe place for all. We won't tolerate personal attacks or raised voices. We do also ask that you be considerate of persons who prefer not to hear profanity. Please be self-aware of your mic time. We want to ensure everyone who wants to contribute to a particular topic can.
Thank you, GayCon. I appreciate that. All right, Best. You have some topics, and I know you had a couple things to bring up, and I just wanted to give you some time to do it, my friend. And also, while you have a moment before you go into your topics, we have some new people in the room. Can you just quickly bring up some of the new stuff that's going on with the forum and how we're growing and stuff?
Sure. Yeah, so we are working on expanding how the forum runs, how we promote it, and then how we kind of distribute content to increase our audience. So we have a new Twitter account with updates and for promotion. We have a new email address for feedback, comments, and concerns. And we are also bringing the forum to YouTube and Rumble. So this episode, this space will be hopefully available within a day on both platforms. The last two are already available on both platforms. And we're just, we're growing, and we're so thankful, and we're ready for what comes next.
Thank you, Best. And so just email us, you guys, the email link. If you got Nicky and Colin, I know you guys came in late. If you guys want to know where we have a forum forum Twitter account now, so you can always go to that, and in the forum Twitter account is the conservative political forum Twitter account is a link to everything like Rumble, YouTube, and everything we're doing there. And if you need to find that Twitter account, you can go to Kat or my page, and we have it linked in there, so you can just link on it and go right to that. So it's really easy, but yeah, we're growing. I mean, just awesome things happen, and I'm excited to keep doing this every week. And I love having the both sides of the perspective. We're missing that in this country, and I want to bring it back. I want us to be able to say, no, we know how to talk fair on both sides. And so, we're bringing it back, and all of you guys are a part of it. And I appreciate everybody in this room. I do. I'm just very thankful for all of you. So with that being said, you already heard the guidelines from GayCon. So we'll go to the Best. Go ahead, buddy.
Yeah. So for my overtime topic, I wanted to talk about religion in America, how that interacts with institutions, the separation between church and state, and the Supreme Court decision from 2 or 3 weeks ago on school choice and state money for private schools. And I actually read a pretty interesting op-ed that came out last weekend talking about all this. And I want to start off by kind of reading it. It gives good background on exactly what the decision was, and kind of the shift in how we think about, church and state that has been, going on for the last few years, especially in the Roberts Supreme Court. So, as you all know, the First Amendment to the Constitution ratified in 1791 provides that Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. In 1801, in reply to a letter, Thomas Jefferson, then president, said that the First Amendment had been intended to build a, quote, wall of separation between church and state. For many years, the Supreme Court relied on those words in Jefferson's non-statutory letter to justify its restrictive First Amendment jurisprudence. In Trinity Lutheran in 2017, a case arising out of Missouri, and Espinoza, a case in 2020, a case arising from Montana, the court decided two major cases involving the free exercise clause of the First Amendment, specifically as it applies to programs established by various states to provide aid to schools and students. Together with the 2021 decisions in Fulton versus Philadelphia, the Roberts Court began dismantling Jefferson's metaphoric wall. On June 21st, 2022, the court decided Garison v. Mencken, perhaps completely dismantling Jefferson's wall, at least in respect to the free exercise clause. The court issued its opinion in Garison in a 6-3 ruling. The court held that Maine's program that pays tuition up to a statutory limit to out-of-district public or private high schools for students whose district do not operate a high school, but which requires participating schools to be non-sectarian, violated the free exercise clause. The majority opinion by Chief Justice Roberts says in part, quote, the state pays tuition for certain students at private schools so long as the schools are not religious. That is discrimination against religion. A state's anti-establishment interest does not justify enactments that exclude some members of the community from an otherwise generally available public benefit because of their religious exercise. Maine's non-sectarian requirement for its otherwise generally available tuition assistance payments violated the free exercise clause of the First Amendment. Regardless of how the benefit and restrictions are described, the program operates to identify and exclude otherwise eligible schools on the basis of their religious exercise. So that's the quote. Some of the language in the Garison opinion may be helpful in the area of special education schools catering to religious students, since under existing legislation, many of these schools are funded by government aid on behalf of the students. An additional takeaway from the opinion relates to the current substantial equivalency controversy in that the court noted that the participating schools deemed eligible for reimbursement under the main program did not necessarily have to comply with the statutory criteria applicable to the institutional program of Maine's public schools, but were exempt from these requirements and instead only subject to the general standards and indicators governing the implementation of the curriculum. Additionally, participating schools did not need to hire state-certified teachers. The extent to which a state may impose additional conditions on participating sectarian schools in both, what they teach and who they hire, even if they impinge on certain religious beliefs, remains an unresolved question that will likely spawn additional litigation. We should not deceive ourselves, as the opposition to charter schools demonstrates, irrespective of any judicial decision. The powerful public education lobby, consisting of teachers unions and others, will definitely push back on the government allocating additional aid outside the public school system, especially during a time when the public school system has experienced budgetary constraints. So that's the article. I found it pretty interesting, and I guess kind of, my view on this is that the Constitution has freedom of religion, not freedom from religion. It never says that the government has to be completely non-denominational, and never mention God ever. And a society that thinks that way is a society that won't be around very long. But I wanted to, hear everyone's thoughts about the case, and about what this could mean for private and charter schools. Nicky?
Good topic. I am a fan of anyone who brings up the establishment clause because it's a fun conversation. I think that whenever you're talking about the establishment of a state religion, and just as a fun side note on this, one of the political conservatives that I actually follow on here a decent amount, named Arizona Politico, got charged with being an establishmentarian on Twitter by some other random person, and I was laughing at that because an establishmentarian is not someone who favors the establishment; it's someone who favors the establishment of a state religion. And the person that was attacking him was too stupid to know the difference. So be careful when you use big words. It's good to Google them. But the thing about the question of the establishment of a religion in our government is that in many cases, that religion, that establishment, happens in a very sort of slow and creeping manner. For many, many years in the 1800s and 1900s, even if there wasn't official prayer in school, there was prayer in school. And kids that declined to participate in that prayer were ostracized for it. In the same way that saying the Pledge of Allegiance was instituted in schools, and kids that, because of their religion or just because of personal belief, refused to do it, were ostracized not just by other students, but by teachers as well. And so this is sort of where it gets into this complicated topic of how do you delineate between whether it is established, whether you are establishing a religion by paying for something, or whether you are establishing a religion by practice and by praxis, really, by the processes you put in place that kids and staff and whatever have to deal with. I am more sympathetic, actually, to the idea that the government can pay for religious schools and that doesn't violate the Establishment Clause as long as it does so in a non-denominational way, and not like basically as long as it doesn't treat religious schools any differently than it would treat any other charter school, essentially, and it doesn't treat one religion better than another. But I think when you have a school that is nominally not a religious school, and you have prayer at that school, then you put children who are not religious and not looking for a religious experience in a very, very difficult position. And so that's where I have issues with like prayer in public schools. That's where I have issues with, coaches praying on the playing field and getting all of their students to, athletes to pray with them. My brother was captain of the football team, and I'll tell you, it is the easiest thing in the world for football players, high school football players, to exert peer pressure over their fellow students. And so when you have organized prayer like that, the Jewish kid in the crowd, which my brother was and which I am, would be put in a hell of a position, quite honestly, in terms of participating or not, to say nothing of the atheist kids. So I think that, the idea that you can't have government pay for religious classes, that you can't have kids attend a secular school but take a period off to go next door to the church and, take seminary or whatever. There are people who take this stuff a little too far for their own good, and it's part of the reason why you get the backlash that you do. But at the same time, I don't want public schools turning into churches.
So again, there's not much danger of that. That would take a very long time. In this case specifically, was, I guess, I think the reason it was 6-3 is because it was so clear cut that these places in rural Maine straight up didn't have a school for the kids to go to, so the school paid for whatever the parents wanted to do, and then they just, told the parents that, yeah, you can choose these schools and not these schools. The Again, I obviously agree we should fund all schools. If the goal of the government spending any money at all in education is to educate kids, then any school that educates kids should get the money, no matter what else they do. Um, Not describe. Um,
So I'll just say this: the problem that you run into is not necessarily just that religious schools don't want to take, don't are not being allocated the money. It's that in many cases they don't want to be held to the same academic standards as normal public schools, and they push back pretty fucking heavily. And we've seen this in certain states. I've read about it in the past. I'm trying to remember the example that I was thinking of. Where they've been like, yes, you should fund us, but no, you shouldn't require us to have the same, you know, state academic standards in terms of math and science and, history. And we should be able to teach our kids that, that God created the earth 5,000 years ago and not have to teach them, about, like carbon dating. Um, and some of those sorts of things. And I'm being a little glib there, but realistically not much. That they want to write their own standards the same way any private school does, and I'm fine with that. I'm fine with any private school teaching kids whatever they want and sending their kids to it. I have lots of friends who went to private school. I think if the government is going to give you money, it should be able to dictate basic standards for education so that all kids come out of that education with a certain understanding of the world. This is an issue you've run into actually in Israel, where the yeshivas, the Jewish schools there, the kids that go only to that and don't go to normal public schools in Israel can come out with such a substandard education that they're basically not able to contribute in society outside of the religious system. And so there's been a real push to sort of modernize that in a way that makes sure that every kid in Israel can get a good enough education that they can be productive, and have basic math skills and shit like that. So I, I'm I would be fine with seeing more religious schools that are state funded, the way that they are in like the Netherlands, for example. I just want to make sure that the kids who go there, learn even most of the skills that you would get at a public school.
the issue is that I don't think we're under any illusion that 100% of the kids that go through the public school system come out with enough understanding of math and science to be a productive member of society. And to say that the definition of what you need for an education is what is required, there's a big disconnect there. And let the public school system fix itself and get standards that actually results in just a decent amount, a percentage of the kids that come out of there to know anything until they then write the rules for everyone else and say but the definition of a good education is exactly what we do. Colin?
So, my belief is that if a single penny goes to a private school, they should have to 100% obey the state's laws on education. If they don't, they should lose all the money that they're getting from the government. Because, and in my opinion, this should almost go for all schools. If they need to stay on the current path, because though this path may not be working now, it's one that's at least a guideline And when I know a kid who went to a private school in Michigan who just, when he transferred to a public school, they had to set him back 2 grades because that's how far behind some of these private schools are actually. And some private schools maybe 2 grades ahead, but there's also private schools that are behind. We need to regulate the education system so somebody in 10th grade at a private school is learning around the same stuff as somebody at 10th grade at a public school, not having these kids be behind.
Colin is wrong, and I'll wait my turn to say why.
No, I mean, I was going to say that um, the again, would you support a public school losing all of its funding if in a certain academic year they don't meet the standards of what need to be a school? Because I know that happens all the time, and pretty much no one does anything. The schools get funded no matter what the result is.
No, because public schools is not their main, but a chunk of their funding is from the government, where private schools have other ways of obtaining that money.
That is not so clear cut. There are many private schools that rely so much on public money. It may not be 100%, but it's definitely enough that if they, stop getting it, they close immediately.
So let's distinguish here between private schools and like charter schools, because most private schools don't get public money. Like most religious schools, there are some states that have voucher programs, but there are very few straight private schools, so to speak, and it's like literally in the name, that actually get funded by the government. But I'll let GayCon and Jeannie go, and then I'll tell Colin why he's wrong.
GayCon?
Jeannie can go first if she would like.
At least up here in the state of Washington, people who graduate either from homeschools or from parochial schools do much better when they're trying to be placed in college versus the public education, at least here in the state of Washington. I don't know about any other state, number one. So obviously, I think they're getting a good, solid education. Number two, the coach that was doing the praying up here in Bremerton in the state of Washington, he did silent prayer. So if an atheist was on the field, he wasn't hearing anything that he may or may not find offensive. So I don't buy the argument that people can't pray silently, when they're on their off time on the field, whether it's a coach or anybody else.
Okay,
GayCon?
my turn. GayCon.
No,
sorry,
no, go for it, Nicky. I can't.
No.
I can't find what I was looking for, so go for it.
Okay, so here's why Colin is wrong. In this country, if you keep reading in that wonderful, wonderful document, in that wonderful, wonderful First Amendment, it says Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. Or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press or the right of the people peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. That's 5 rights, 5 freedoms. The fourth of which is the right of the people peaceably to assemble. It is fundamental. Reading is fundamental. It is fundamental. That joke was just for you, GayCon. It is fundamental that in this country, people are allowed to come together and in private groups, and that they are able to educate their children to whatever fucking standard they want. The basic freedom to be an American comes from the ability to not have the government tell you what your children should believe. The thing is that that freedom does not extend to the ability to have the government pay you to teach that to your children. If you want to teach your kids that the moon is made of cheese, and you want to teach your kids that, Jesus teaches everyone that hamburgers should be eaten by, I'm just making shit up off the top of my head right now. I'm not doing a very good job. But like, at the end of the day, the idea that the government should be able to dictate what your kids learn is antithetical to the American experience and is much closer to, for example, China or Russia and their sort of mind control they try to do on their populations than what we try to do. And there are plenty of people in this country who homeschool their kids. It's extremely possible for people who make a lot of money and for people who don't make a lot of money and who just happen to have a parent who can work from home and do whatever, or that they just choose not to. And they make do in order to be able to homeschool their kids. There are lots of parents who do that. And so in a more formalized setting, the ability to have Christian schools, parochial schools, Jewish schools, Hindu schools, Muslim schools, whatever, satanic schools, whatever you want to set up, your green, go climb a tree and everybody lives in a tree for a year and educate the kids there, schools, that's America, fundamentally. And it's stupid sometimes and it's crazy sometimes, but it's how we've gotten here 225 years. And as much as it means some of the time that some kids get fucked in the head by not learning the right things from their parents, that's also America. That does not mean that America should pay for it. And if we are going to pay for it, like purchasing any product, we should have standards about like what you have to teach kids in order for us to give you money. Now, again, freedom of religion. We should not be dictating the stuff that we consider to be religion in this country, which is different than like science and math and history and English. You are allowed to teach your kids whatever fucked up religion you want in addition to that stuff. But you have to
Can I
teach
step
them...
in real quick? Sorry, Nikki.
Sorry. I did it.
This is being recorded. Can you? I know that you're doing a decent job, but can you try to keep down on the F words, please?
It's hard. I
know. I'm just asking.
Yes, but like I understand where Colin's coming from, but it's probably because he hasn't gotten out in the world yet and like experienced life much. It is there are downsides to government dictating everything. And those downsides tend to look like what happens to the Uyghurs in China. And it starts small. And so this is a small price to pay. And I think it's okay for us to live in a society where some weird people, and I include a lot of the religious conservatives and Jewish religious conservatives that I know in that group, choose not to educate their kids the way that I would, or that most people do. But I think that's a perfectly fine thing. But I also think that, we can create a society where, again, people go to public school for 6 classes a day, and then they, I remember when I was in, and I'm sorry, I'm rambling, but not really. When I was in elementary school, junior, whatever, we had kids who took off part of the day, and they took the rest of the day and they went to like Chinese language school. And like that was something that was baked in because we had a lot of fairly wealthy Chinese immigrants who were working in tech companies. And so if we can do it for them, if we can build our school schedules around that kind of thing, we can build our school schedules around kids taking Spanish language immersion, around kids who are doing seminary part of the day. Like we can do these things if we don't get so much of our heads up our asses. And we can do them without threatening the separation of church and state, but we should also not throw away our basic ideals of like, let's educate our kids and not pay parents to do nothing at all.
Colin?
So first, I'd like to go to Jeannie's point on how the coach in Bremerton, or however, I don't know if I'm butchering that, it allowed for silent prayer or silent meditation, as some people may say it. But there are also going to be coaches that take advantage of this and abuse it to make it a full-out prayer. And that is... Jeannie, you can laugh all you want, but
Hold on, Colin. I agree with Jeannie, though, and you're right. There are people that can take advantage of that and abuse it. But the coach was specifically asked to not pray with the kids, and he said he wouldn't do it. Now, he had other teams come around him while he was silently praying, that famous picture. And so I'm just saying that while you are correct, that can happen that way. When you're asked to not do that and you don't do it, like he didn't, he respected them. I've seen some interviews. He said, I stopped, but they just fired him anyways after a while. And he would silently go pray. So while you are correct,
Jason, you are correct. Previous to the Supreme Court case, if I have the Supreme Court case right, which I believe I do after reading articles and excerpts from the case, now a coach can do what I said that they probably will do, and many coaches will continue to maybe have a more, how do I say this? I don't want to say radical, but I want to say a more influential way of using their religion, maybe making other people uncomfortable. And when people are uncomfortable, they get depressed. And when people get depressed, they die.
Sure, but I can tell people I don't want you eating in my car, and they'll eat in my car anyways. And I can lay down the law and say you can't eat in my car, and the court could say, well, they could eat in your car because, and I'm just bringing up an example. And I could take it to court, and then it is your car, so that if you tell them they can't eat in your car, then they can't eat in your car. My point being is, yes, we can go with these examples, and let's say I won that case where they couldn't eat in my car, and so then you have more extreme radicals saying, no, you can't drink in my car, and I get where you're coming from. And the school can go to the teacher and say, hey, I don't want you praying with the kids. And the coach should respect that, which this coach did. And I get, I understand it. It depends on, by all means, okay, the separation of church and state, and I'm a Christian. By all means, I believe that there is that, there should be that in some ways, and that the coach should be respectful. This case specifically with this coach, he didn't even want to he didn't even want to go against that and have the kids praying when the school asked him not to. You know what I'm saying, Colin? So I get where you're coming from. And if you want to respond, I'm sorry I jumped in. I just wanted to say I feel as if everything can be balanced. Everybody it can keep going up from there, but at some point, you've got to have a balance. This coach was fired for praying on the sidelines. This case was not about him praying with the kids. So the case was won because all he wants to do is be able to pray, and he would pray after the game on the 50-yard line while the kids are doing the fight song, and silently, as Jeannie was saying. So, Colin, I will let you respond. I know I jumped in, but I just felt that I should say something about that. But you have every right to respond, Colin, and then after that, best you can call the rest of the people that have their hands raised.
I'm just going to say, I'm going to move on from the subject and go back to what Nicky was saying. I'm going to say, I believe this Supreme Court case just allows the football coach to say a prayer before a game. And that is exactly what the Supreme Court case does. And that means that he could just say, hey, everybody huddle up, and then just say, Our Father. He has the right to now under this case, and there's nothing much a school can do about it now. Yes, the school could try and fire him, but then the Supreme Court or a court would get involved in the interpretation of the Supreme Court case. And then we'd end up having this litigation all over again and leading into more and more decisions. So then also now I'm going to go back to Nicky. And I am going to say, I think I didn't really put out what I was trying to say in the right way about the religious schools thing. What I'm really trying to say is parents should be able to teach their kids what they want. But they shouldn't fray too much from a standard that their kids are getting absolutely brain fricked and they can't be competitive on getting into college, on getting into good jobs, into getting better opportunities to advance their future. And when sometimes, I'm gonna have to say this, but sometimes the parents fuck up the kids and the kids have no say about it, and it's the kids who end up getting hurt, not the parents.
And once again, I'm sorry for running you over, Colin, with that comment. I didn't mean to just jump. I felt like I jumped in real quick,
No,
so
Jason,
I apologize.
You're fine, Jason.
Go ahead, Best. Who's next?
GayCon.
I just want to bring something up that, as someone who has been very much entrenched in education, in a lot of my upbringing, with my mother taught in both in private and public schools all her career, so I saw a lot of things and I was privy to a lot of things. And then I also taught both at the university and high school public level. We talk about standards. We talk about, holding students to standards, and making sure that schools follow all of this. No one actually makes sure. I have watched the standards fall and fall and fall and fall until we have gotten to, can you say, an entire sentence by the time you graduate high school? Can you tell us what 2 + 2 is when you're a senior in high school? Okay, then I guess you can graduate. Like, yes, I'm exaggerating a little bit, but things have gotten ridiculous. I graduated college with a bachelor's degree in French, with someone standing next to me who couldn't speak a lick of French, and he was getting the same degree as I was, because we have brought our standards down so low. But to the point of no one's checking this, I will not say the high school that I taught at, because I don't want to say for various reasons. And when I do write my book, you'll find out then. I taught in a high school. I taught Spanish to juniors and seniors in a public high school. It was a requirement for those students to take that class, and they could not fail it. I had seniors in my class who I know failed my class. And guess what? They walked across the stage and graduated, because for 48 hours after I put in my final grades, I was locked out, and someone went back in and changed the grades. All because they had to make graduation rate, and all because if they didn't make graduation rate, they were going to lose some federal funding. So they fudged the numbers. And I had to sit there and bite my tongue and just go, okay, well, I guess I'm just going to look the other way and pretend this didn't happen. I'm not dumb enough to think that is not happening all over this country. No one is paying attention to the standards, and no one is holding anyone's feet to the fire when it comes to any of this. And I saw the same thing happen at the university level as well.
And as a teacher, GayCon, that's got to be frustrating. Am I correct? I mean, you're teaching the kids, and you feel like you're working hard, and then that happens, right? I just wanted your opinion on that.
Well, it's not only frustrating. There was a reason that there is a reason that I'm getting out of education, because that is you're forcing me to put my integrity on the line because I can't say anything. I can't do anything about it. I'm not going to be part of a system that allows that. And that's just one part of my frustration. Like that's just the tip of the iceberg. But yeah, you're putting my integrity on the line, and by doing this stuff and me not being able to really do anything else, do anything about it.
Yeah, I totally get that. All right, Bess, go ahead, buddy. Sorry to take over.
Colin, do you have like response or something to add to that?
So I actually do have something to say to GayCon, and that is, I 100% agree with you on the fact that these standards aren't working, and that's why we kind of need to implement new standards. We need to implement new standards, and we also need to implement new ways that we enforce these standards, making sure that these loopholes schools are taking, because I know schools are doing this. As a student and a family that is very connected to the teachers in the area, I know that some of these schools are fucking with their numbers and they're trying to get more funding. And I think that we need to...
Hey, Colin, can I ask you to please watch the F words, please? Thank you. We're being recorded, so...
Oh, so sorry, Jason. I'll use a replacement. So
Fudging or whatever.
Yeah. When these schools are trying to mess with their numbers, the kids aren't getting what they need to be getting, and then so are these communities. And when these communities aren't getting what they need to be getting, then these communities are behind in technology, behind in resources to really let these communities thrive. And this all starts at the high school level. And if we don't fix the high school level, our whole system could end up being fucked up or fund up. Sorry.
Okay. Kat?
Hey, I'm pretty faded. But I did want to say I completely agree with GayCon. I think that the public school system needs a complete revamp. I mean, clearly the children are being cheated out of the education that they should have. I feel like when I was young, I was fortunate enough to go to a private school through seventh grade. It was a Catholic school in a smaller city. And we moved away for a year when I was in fifth grade, I believe it was. And the only choice was a public school. And I mean, this may have been a one-off thing, but the kids there, I'm sorry, I'm not like the smartest person, but it just seemed like they're where they were compared to where I was way down. I got pulled from the class for reading in English and taught separately because I was so advanced of them, it wouldn't have made sense for me to stay in the room with them. So I went, and then we moved back, thankfully. And I went back to the Catholic school through seventh grade. The only reason I switched to public school for the remainder of that education was simply because of class choice. The public school had more choices with different types of classes that I wanted to take than the Catholic school did. And also just an observation, in my previous life running a nonprofit and speaking to the media many times, and meeting these younger journalists who graduated with a degree in journalism. To my shock, there was several of them that didn't know the difference between like two and two and there and there. And I'm thinking to myself, how in the world do you graduate from college with a degree in journalism and you don't know these things that I'm pretty sure we learned in fourth grade? And then in my job, I ran into quite a few different people who had a degree as a teacher, but for whatever reason chose not to end up going into that profession. And they also had the same sorts of issues. I'm just like, what is going on? It's just insane. But anyway, I'm gonna bow out here in a couple minutes, and I did want to thank everyone for being here. I want to thank GayCon for filling in for me. It was nice kind of being under the weather and not having to do all the normal duties. Bess, thanks for all your hard work. Jason, wonderful job as always, and good to see everyone. And thanks for all your sharing.
You have a wonderful night, Kat. Go ahead, Bess. You have anything to say?
Yeah, we hope you feel better, and thanks for making it a lot longer than we thought you would.
Yeah, I tried. Thanks.
Jeannie?
Since people are talking about anecdotal stuff, I was a statistical analyst for many years, and then I changed fields and I went into construction. But I had to take some classes at the local tech college, and they did remedial things like math. And most of the students that were in there, they had to be high school graduates, couldn't even read a tape measure. They absolutely could not do even remedial math. And these are all graduates from high school. How did they get there? This is what I don't get. I ended up being an assistant to the teacher because my math skills were strong. And I just, to teach people how to read a ruler, is, it's so basic. It's just simple, fractions. And they didn't learn that in high school for some reason. And that, definitely should have been taught.
Oh, Best is not here anymore. Well, that messes that up. Oh, he's down there. Is he still? Let me see if I can get him back in. I was like, the reason why I didn't speak is because Best is running the show. Well, Best has come back. Colin, go ahead. You there, Colin? Can somebody tell me if they can hear me?
I can hear you. I need to do something else real quick. Someone else can have my time.
Okay. Best is back. So do you want to take back over, Best? Until 10:55? GayCon, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay. I don't like dead airwaves. I'm just saying. The silence is not good. So does anybody else have any more to say about this school stuff and everything while we're on this topic still?
Well,
Jeannie, go ahead, GayCon, and then Jeannie.
Well, I guess I was going to make a sort of final proclamation. As I've said before, and I'll say again, and as I might even call my book whenever I write it, we need to burn down the education system in this country and collect the insurance money. I mean, just an overhaul is not even gonna work. We just need to get rid of the whole thing and try something else. It's beyond shambles.
Yeah, no, I hear you. I understand that. Jeannie.
My last thought on this is I think property tax money for students should follow the student and not the school district. And then you can probably get most people to get a good education because there'll probably be more charter schools, private schools, and even parochial schools that can get the money if they, allowed to follow the student.
Yeah, I'm back. Sorry. I've actually had a lot of experience with, just charter schools, which are completely government funded but privately operated. And the people who have the guts to start a charter school have what it takes to really dedicate themselves and like every part of their lives to the school, to the students, which is something that doesn't exist in public schools because it's not incentivized to. And I mean, I've plenty of experience, plenty of anecdotal stories about some of the greatest teachers that are in these schools and the amazing results that they get. And when you have that, you can afford to specialize in art school or music focused, or what's becoming really popular is STEM focused schools. So basically anything's better than public. We can quibble about the funding, but just it's really a mindset of, we're here, schools exist just to get next year's money and nothing to do with kids. And that's not intentional, but when you have the funding set up the way it is, that's inevitable.
Any other final thoughts before we go on to something else? And best, if you have something else you want to add to a different topic for till 10:55, you can.
I mean, again, I can, I can talk about education, all day. A lot of what I see is the good things that are happening. A lot of improvements. Um, Really, again, by just changing the incentive structure. Charter schools are doing, God's work. Private schools are constantly innovating, serving kids that just weren't served before. Arizona just passed, basically became the best state in the nation for school choice with vouchers, with the whole thing, which will help students with disabilities. Like kind of it's a lifesaver for them, and just we're getting more innovative with education. A lot of the more experiential learning. We've most I don't know how many will admit it, but most of the education industry has kind of accepted that the online schooling over COVID was a complete failure and has left, an entire really generation like 2 years behind in school. And we're just starting to see the damage that has done. But the good news is we recognize that now, really. And I'm not sure that will ever happen again, kind of for that reason, because we remember and know how bad it was. Jeannie?
In your experience, are charter schools almost always predominantly a lottery system to get in them?
Oh, yeah, pretty much exclusively. There's, in fact, two separate lotteries. There's a lottery for the, upper class and then the lower class. And then the upper class is actually pretty easy to get into because, these schools are located in the not inner city, but in the city. And the lower income, I mean, these parents fight like their life depends on it to get in because in a very real sense, it does. And I wouldn't say it's the fairest system in the world, but, it's not, I guess it really is better than anything else. And that really does play on how the schools are is that what kind of kids are able to get in, and there's a challenge for all schools, but a lot of schools are falling victim to there should be no other standards other than your family's income, and obviously, that should affect something, but there should be a little more barrier to entry, and it's very obvious which schools have that barrier and which ones don't. Jeannie?
So that only tells me that there needs to be a lot more charter schools to make things, what I call fair.
Right. Again, it's just a change in the incentive structures and change of the attitude. And you know what? If it turns out that's what it needs, it's certainly better than what we have now. GayCon?
Yeah, I just want to also echo the push for more charter schools because, excuse me, I'm finishing my dinner. As far as as far as I know, as far as I've seen, and this is partially anecdotal, I will admit, the people who have started charter schools are real educators, meaning they were teachers or they've actually spent time at least in the classroom or know what they know how to run a school, they know what to sort of build it on. One of the problems that we have in the public school system, which I think was part of the root of it, being taken over by the government, is you had politicians running schools, and you had people who have never you had administrators who never stepped foot in a classroom running schools. You can get in certain states you can get a degree in school administration without ever having to teach, without ever having to like student teach or step foot in a classroom. You can't run a school, you can't be an administrator of a school without knowing what the teachers are going through, without knowing what is going on in the classrooms. And that's a huge failure in leadership. So when you have principals and superintendents of schools who don't know what the heck is going on, inside the schools, that's a huge disconnect and a huge problem. Whereas these charter schools are being opened and run by people who know, who've had their, for lack of a better term, boots on the ground. So yeah, I can understand their the need for more charter schools.
Also, something that I've observed is that, while they are government funded, it's not guaranteed. And there are, it's a massive fight to get a new charter school open. So it's not just that these educators, are in the classroom, know the students, know what it's like, know what's needed, which is all true. But then they have to spend 10 years fighting to the death for their school to exist. And once that school does exist, it's a whole different ball game. And just the way that the administrators and the teachers appreciate the fact that it exists, appreciate they have the opportunity and take advantage of it. Jeannie?
My daughter's a teacher, but she at this time she's teaching ECAP, which is for low income students before they hit kindergarten, pretty much. But there are good teachers and there's bad teachers, and no matter how bad a teacher is, hardly ever are they ever moved out or fired, and that's part of the problem too. If you're a bad teacher, there should be mechanisms in place instead of the union making the decision that you can get rid of bad teachers who aren't doing their job as per their contract.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that would be good. But it seems to me like, some things are backwards, right? I mean, we live in a state where they are, right, Jeannie? Anyways, all right. Well, we're gonna be closing out soon, but I wanted to thank everyone for coming. I wanted to give final thoughts to the people with the speaker on anything they'd like to bring, but please keep your final thoughts at a 2-minute or less segment. And I would love for anybody with a speaker to kind of just give a final thought, and I will close in prayer. Becky, Colin took off. I wanted him to say something, but he took off. Becky, would you give some final thoughts for tonight? Welcome to the Conservative Political Forum. I'm glad you made it.
Thank you for having this. As you know, I work late. We're in my part of the country, so I'm glad I got home on time to join you guys. And I've been listening to everything that everyone's been saying about our education system and things that have been going on. And I remember, I'm 47 years old, so I'm kind of old school when it comes to the way we used to be taught. The way if you were failing a class, you were forced to take summer school. If you did not pass a class, if it was a requirement, they didn't go in and change our grades. If you failed, you failed. And if that's actually going on, that's very disheartening, because it's not holding our students accountable for their lack of for either it's, they're not doing the work, sloughing off, playing on their phones or what have you. And I really think, fortunately, my sons have gone to a school where electronics in the classroom, unless it was directly related to classwork, were not allowed. So they had their laptops, that they were given by the government, federal government, whatever. Anyhow, that being said, they could only use those for classwork, nothing else. And so I think a lot of, yes, there's bad teachers, but what's the word I'm looking for? Not basically, the students are not being held accountable for what they're doing, and neither are teachers, and that is so sad. And the other thing that's going on, I'm sure you've seen the news, especially if you follow Twitter, about talking about sex in the classroom to kindergartners, first graders, preschool even. That should be up to the parents up until a certain age. Sex education about sex safety, conception, talking about STDs. That's what sex education should be about. It should not be about sexuality or an adult sexuality. Let them be kids. And that's really what I believe. And that's really my thoughts I had on that. I don't know if I missed anything. I know I was about 20 minutes late, 25 minutes late coming in, but I always love hearing everyone's point of view about everything. So thank you for that. And as always, Jason, thank you for having me. So I will sign off. Well, not sign off, but my mic.
Yeah, no problem. And we're always glad to have you. We're glad to have everybody. Before I'm going to give final thoughts to Jeannie, and then GayCon, and then I want Bess to tell the people that may have come in the room late the new surprises we have, Becky, for the Conservative Political Forum, so you can kind of know what's going on, and then I will close us out. Go ahead, Jeannie, final thoughts?
I heard someone say that law shouldn't be passed because there might be a slippery slope attached to them. And, I didn't want to call the person out, but I found that argument to be condescending.
Yeah, we're gonna give Colin a break, but not. I don't think. I think he showed what he was really saying when he, said, you're uncomfortable, which leads to depression, which leads to suicide. That, like, I've been in an uncomfortable prayer situation, but the worst case scenario isn't that bad, really, and that's not what we should be worrying about at all. But whatever. So yes, the new things we have a new Twitter account, we have a new email. Contact us with feedback, questions, concerns. This episode will hopefully be on YouTube and Rumble, so subscribe and follow us there. And just, keep up to date.
Definitely. And so, Becky, we have the email is theconservativepoliticalforum@gmail.com if you want to make any comments. And I will still be doing Late Night Garage at least probably once a weekend, just because I like to be doing that. I don't record those. Those are just for us to goof off and have fun. But yeah, I'm really just honored to have you guys here. GayCon, thank you for filling in tonight, and I will be calling on you more often, my brother, because I really appreciate you and the best. I'm so glad that you were here tonight. GayCon, do you want to have some final thoughts, my friend? Anything you want to throw out there? I'd love to hear it.
Just thank you for letting me come and join in the conversation. I always love to give some opinions if I have them, and speak about things that I have experience about. So I appreciate the outlet, and if I don't want to plug my own stuff, but I have tons of other stuff that I put out. So lots of opinions to go around.
And we want to follow those too, because we respect you as a lot, my friend. And so GayCon will be doing some random co-hosting sometimes too, along with the best. We have a good team with Garison. Next week the judge should be here. If not, I might need one of you guys to be a backup GayCon or best for the judge in his last hour, because I know he's been tired and stuff. But anyways, that being said, I love the new stuff we're doing, and we appreciate everybody being here. And I'm going to close us in prayer. Oh, go ahead, Becky.
Just a really quick question for GayCon. So if you're going to be hosting one of these live forums, that will you post? I just started following you. Will you post something about that?
Whenever Jason and I can figure out a time that I can help lead some discussions. Sure, I'll probably tweet out about it.
Okay, thank you. I was just curious, 'cause I know Jason tweets about it. I didn't know if you were. I mean, if you even do any of your own aside from what he does. Even, I mean, if I'm available, this is an amazing thing that you guys are doing. I love it.
He does a podcast, and I want to listen to his podcast regularly and everything. And so he does a podcast, but he's a big part of. I know best. Anytime it's hard to do this sometimes when you're hosting, to find a co-host that can actually make sure that, because we get trolls in the room. So these guys know how to stop trolls really good, and so it really helps. And we pick up topics and stuff, and so and I've had a bunch of people in here be co-hosts, and everybody's done a good job. But aside from that, Becky, yes, GayCon, you do have your own podcast, correct? I mean, you sent me some links to some before, but I mean, is it a regular thing?
Yes. So my best friend and I have a podcast. It's definitely not family friendly, just FYI. But we put it out usually once a week. We've missed a few weeks here recently because things moving and things have been crazy. But more are coming. Just so yeah, keep tuned for that. And then I write usually once or twice a week for other outlets as well.
Cool. Well, Becky, we'll keep you informed on those, because GayCon's a big part of a lot of our forums and stuff. And even when we do like Late Night Garage or the Judge Does Night Court, he shows up, and it's awesome. And thank you, Bess, for what you've done. Everybody, I appreciate every single one of you. And I'm just going to close us in prayer and say good night, and we will see you guys next week for sure. So, Father, I just thank you for everybody that is still here tonight. I just pray you bless them as they sleep and as they go through their routines. And I just pray you put a hedge of protection around them and their thoughts. I pray that there is no depression, that if they're battling things or frustrated with some things, we know what your word says about that stuff. And we just pray right now that we stand strong in what we do and how we live our lives. And I just pray for health in each person in this room and who was in here tonight. I just call no weapon formed against them shall prosper, as your word says, and their bodies are healthy and whole by the stripes of Jesus. In your mighty name we pray. Amen. I want to thank you, everybody, for being here. We are going to keep going with this forum. The Best has worked overtime to help me out, and I really appreciate it, Best. I love seeing what we're doing, bro. And you guys are all important to this because we need to stand up for conservatism. We need to stand up for getting along with, understanding where liberals are coming from. That's one of my values in this is, while this is the conservative political forum, we want to understand where liberals are coming from. Yes, Best, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to shout out Audio Labs again, in the very small chance that they listen to this. We love you and thank you.
Yes, thank you so much. I agree. Let's go. Let's keep standing up, friends, for what is right in this country, and getting understanding. You everyone have a good night, and we'll see you next week.